Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Wow, another week's gone past. Another episode of the Asylum podcast. Good evening to you all.
Yes.
I hope you're all well. It is Monday. It is the Asylum podcast, and it is episode 69. Now, before any of you go too crazy, this is a serious podcast where we talk about serious things. So you can keep your 69 jokes to yourself. Well, we're professionals. We've got important news to bring you today. We don't want to be tarnished with the 69 hype that's there. So welcome, everybody. I'm Miserable G, and I'm followed and joined with the usual little bit of madness, who I think is getting quite aggro.
She's worried about the rum. She's like, "You're drinking too much rum recently." I'm like, "I haven't even opened the bottle." I like you, miss. I bought the rum for the bottle. I was like, the bottle's so cool. Like, there's another brand. Dan Aykroyd's got like I think his Crystal Skull vodka, which I was watching on Joe Rogan. If anyone watches Joe Rogan, other podcast, fantastic. Obviously, if you've never watched it, well worth watching. And he had Dan on not too long ago, and he was talking about his Crystal vodka, which is like made in Canada, pure water, and like they actually like through the process of the mash and everything, and then the way that they kind of like they at the end process they flow it over semi-precious like crystals and stuff, or precious semi-crystal things, and they kind of like then they pour it into this amazingly cool kind of a crystal skull type thing, which is like designed by a famous friend of Dan and stuff, and it's supposedly really cool. So I don't like vodka. Okay, it's one of those things I genuinely don't like
having
vodka.
it with vodka and Coke. It'll be like, this is the only one I'm having vodka, like, but
is anyone in chat like I always find you're either a whiskey drinker or a vodka drinker. I don't tend to find people who like both. And I'm more of a whiskey, rum, spice rum, that kind of side. You know, I'm not really into I'm not into the whole clean white spirits too much. Although I do like a white rum. You know, I'm there.
So I'm just watching my connection.
Yeah, you've got your dynamic again.
It's terrible. I don't know whether to turn it off and see what happens, but yeah, I don't know what's happening in my internet the last couple of days. I mean, we've just signed a new contract, so whether they're like tweaking shit, I'm hoping.
So can they hear us? As long as they can hear us, though, right? The audio's coming through clean, right, guys? The video. At the end of the day, guys, if the video, whoa, is the stream potato or is it just me? No, Coops,
it's potato. We're going
as long as the audio is.
We're going 128, 120.
What it is new OBS, and they've got this new thing. So, yeah. It drops. So as long as the audio is good. Well, Toby says the audio is fine, so that's dope.
The point,
that's really
the point
good,
of
guys.
it is that the dynamic stream thing on OBS is so that even though my crappy internet seems to be dropping, it means that the stream still gets pushed through. But what it does is it automatically drops the quality of, say, the video, so that it can keep the process going. So hopefully that means we should have less audio issues, but we may look like sacks of potatoes every now and again as it goes through.
To be honest, we should be pixelated throughout most of the show. Really, I think that's the reality.
Maybe that's the way to do it. We'll just blur it like a CCTV sort of thing that we didn't agree to be on camera.
Yeah, we didn't. When we talk about the leaks,
we can use our voice changes so we can pretend we're somebody else.
Oh God, honest. Does anyone else like the whole kind of audio voice changing nonsense? I realized this with my Go XLR is like I actually probably didn't need to get like the full big one with all the fancy other, the FX button and all the other stuff, because I don't really use it and I don't think I ever will. I just needed the mini one.
It's got nothing to do with whether you like it or not. Let's be honest. It's because you can't be asked to set it up.
It's a combination of factors. It's a combination of factors.
I know you. No, it's got nothing to do with whether you think it's cool. It's just you literally can't be asked to send it. I was like, I've got to read something. I've got to learn how it works. Nah, I'll pass. I'll stick.
It's so true.
I just needed the
mini.
mini.
So true. It's so true. Yes, I did just need the mini. But anyway, maybe they realised that, but. So, yeah, right. Anyway, what were we saying? What was he saying? Oh,
don't
yeah,
know
we were
what
saying
we
before we started. Is everybody else super excited?
So we've
hyped?
got
Are you all
the thing
hyped?
that's on everybody's
Are you all
lips. Everything that's on everybody's lips this week. You are not going to be able to move throughout this conversation, and that is because Thomas Cook has gone into liquidation, and everybody's flights are cancelled. The holidays are cancelled. It's a sad day for British.
What?
Did you not know?
No.
Did you not know, Thomas? Wow, what planet are you fucking on? Do you not even turn a TV
Hang on.
on?
We booked a holiday. Hang on.
Not with Thomas Cook, I hope.
We didn't book a holiday with Thomas Cook, did we? No, we're fine. Because we have sense.
Oh,
What?
Thomas Cook. It was good when you were around. You were a great institution. You sent many people. Hang on, no, sorry, we're not talking about Thomas Cook. What am I talking about?
Madness heard of Brexit. Is there such a thing?
Probably
Is there such
not.
a thing? What's happening? What are you talking about? Brexit? What is this Brexit that you're talking about? Is it like brie? Is it like cheese? Is this like a special type of cheese?
It's a new tea.
No, I am not surprised. I mean, they've been on the bubble for like years.
I
like
think
some of
they've been in debt for a while, and I think they've been bailed out a couple of times, and then they asked the government for some more money, and this time they said, "Nah, it's not worth it," and so they went under. Basically, 2 a.m. this morning they went under.
Wow. So I'm gonna have to read up on this then. I'm just gonna have to read up on all this information because first I need to read up on moldy cheese Brexit, and then secondly I need to read up on. I to be honest though, I just don't watch the news. I mean, this is our beginning. You know, we will do a link to Star Citizen in a bit for all the people that watch YouTube and just want to get to the Star Citizen bit. This is our usual kind of just little chit chat that we do at the beginning for the first 10 minutes. We should probably do this. Right? Before we should probably just do this on the 10-minute intro that people are waiting for, and then go into start. You just listen to our voices talking. That's actually a good idea. Actually, I might do that next time. What was I saying? I've lost my train of thought already. Hey, Borderlands 3. We had fun this morning, dude. I enjoyed it.
We did. We played a bit of Borderlands 3, and I don't know. It depends whether you like the setup. We should get some feedback on people actually and see what they think of seeing the multicast in the same screen and that, whether they enjoy seeing that and that. But I enjoyed it. It was a good game. I think we had good fun. Lots of things died.
I think the idea is obviously we're going to try and set it up to get like I think a max set up for like 4 people to play in, like, you know, four screen split screen type thing for like some games, because obviously a lot of games are squad based, you know, like we play PUBG for example. You get 4 people split screen, and then we can have obviously flip between 4 players as well, which I think is doable for the channel. The reality is we need, like we both know, Miz has not got good internet, but he's got a great computer. I've got a shit computer, great internet. That hopefully the computer situation.
To grind, we form. Nothing,
yes,
because we're miles away.
Yes, exactly. It would be nice.
In a cartoon, that would be some awesome horse, and it'd be why we're together.
Yes. Yes. It's like literally, we would be like in the Thunderdome. It'd be Basher. What's the name of the guys in Thunderdome? There's like the Brains is the little dwarf dude. That's definitely you, and I'm just the big brute with the child brain. Like whistle. Anyway, sorry, we're way off topic here. This is the usual madness. This is the usual nonsense. This is our filler. This is how we fill. This is people go, how can you guys make 3 hours? Well, the first 40 minutes is nonsense.
Let us teach you a thing or two about a podcast and how to do it.
We like to go over like some of the comments. We had some fantastic, by the way, for all the people on YouTube who watch on YouTube, thank you so much for the comments. We had some fantastic comments this week on last week's show. I think last week's show was one of the best shows in terms of interesting different discussions outside of what everybody else, I'm going to be honest, outside of everyone else was talking about in Star Citizen. I watched a lot of other podcasts and other shows, and I honestly think they've missed so many. I honestly think we always try to deliver something a little bit fresh on conversations. Some things aren't, you know, flight model and stuff, but I always think some things are genuinely in there. And there's a great comment
There was a great comment from, I'm going to try and get the gentleman's name. Where is he? What did he say? Which I think really sums up our podcast really nicely. This is from Ninjedi. He says, nice comments here and there. Good discussion.
Here and there.
The here and there bit, I think, is kind of sums up the show beautifully. You have to kind of like splice it. I'm hoping we'll one day get in and be able to cut up the podcast. I'm hoping YouTube does something where you'll be able to just like grab chunks like Twitch does on Twitch. You can do a YouTube clips for podcasts. Would be a fantastic tool where you can just take chunks and then post those instantly through YouTube. Maybe there is. If somebody knows a way to do it, hit me up. I would love to know. It would be really helpful to know how to do that. That would be fantastic.
I think we were nerds just completely killed my internet. Coming in with the raid.
Woo!
Thank you very much.
Faces. This is our faces for when we talk about leaks. Ooh.
No one knows who we are. What we are talking
This is
about.
using dynamic OBS, by the way, guys. So for anyone that's just popped in, we don't normally look like this.
I'm kind of hoping that
We're
it's not the dynamic that's killing my internet, though, because it didn't seem to be that bad before. So I'm going to have to do some tests.
I don't know.
But yeah,
Can you switch off the dynamic?
Thank you for the raid. I don't think so while I'm doing it now. And also, now I'm doing
crap.
this NDI output. I think it locks it in. So I might have been able to if I wasn't doing the NDI out bit to you. Oh, not yet. Okay, well done. Bother raiding us then. It's fine. I'll save it. We'll save it. Be patient.
Be patient.
It's an incoming raid. Normally it's like...
Bunsen, you spoiled the surprise. Bunsen's like, that's a bit
no,
too soon, dude.
He wants to. I know what it is. He's following CIG. He's doing a staggered raid. We're gonna get a little bit now.
just 5%.
We're gonna get a little bit
of the
later, and then right near the end of the podcast, we'll get a little bit more.
Wow. That's crazy.
These memes are not gonna end. It's just. It's going to be a night of this, I think.
God.
Yo, there's a raid. Who is it? My goodness. What? Defend. The surprise is here. What up? I don't know what to do with so many people in here. How's it going, nerds?
Hey, nerds. Thank you so much for the raids. Thank you so much for all the follows. So much appreciated. Thank you for sending your community over to us. Welcome.
Which was I hope you don't like Star Citizen, all of you people that have come over to this channel.
No,
I'm only joking.
We have joking. Some sugar with that.
We are big fans. We do. We're interested. We were just discussing the ongoing saga that is the RSI Mantis. I was just saying that basically, like on my tweet that went out, like my hype has been interdicted. I don't know about anybody else's because it's just. It seems a little bit on like it would like. Can we please get the ship now, or at least a different view? Do you know what I mean? Like I kind of like maybe like a different angle of the ship in that kind of cloud, whatever, and like in the asteroid belt. It seems a bit. I don't know. Is anyone else still excited for that? Like it's kind of.
I mean, this is probably the. I don't know. I tweeted out just before a bit earlier today that it was like. Probably the worst marketing campaign I've seen, not ever, just in a long time. You know, I mean, there's been plenty of really bad marketing campaigns, and I mean, it was bad enough when they dragged it out for the week, like last week when they started this little nose and a little bit extra. It was like, okay, it's getting a little bit much, but you know, we accepted it. And then when it went past Friday, we still no announcement, and then we got an update on Saturday. And then an update on Sunday. It's like, oh my God. No problem, nerd. Thanks for jumping in. Hope your daughter
so much.
Gets better.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not
you're still urinating.
So
it's crazy.
It's such a. I mean, the thing is, like, it's like nobody understands how you hype something up. So that they built the hype up, and actually, you know, it doesn't matter what you do, and even if you pretend that you're kind of not interested, you are interested. And so then first like 5 days you get that interest and you think, oh, it's coming and then this is the problem with Star Citizen quite often is because you're expecting it then, right? So when they're going to do a reveal, they normally mention it on the beginning of the week, and then on the Thursday/Friday they have their special shows where they talk about the release and the and the reveal, and so you're expecting it for it to be there, and then boom, they don't deliver. And it's like when all the complaints over the internet are about how slow CIG is and how they don't deliver, and then they go and do that, and it's like showing everybody that yes, not only is our game slow, but our releases and our announcements are freaking slow.
Look, I don't mind if it's a 2-week thing, but for me, you need to do what they did with the Eclipse. You know, the way that the Eclipse was done, where you had like they did a little blurry thing, and then they did like a kind of another little shutdown, and there was like a little announcement, and then they did another little bit, and then they showed a bit of the kind of this camp with a wire fence, and everyone was trying to figure out what it was, and then they did another view, and then they had to then we suddenly saw the inside the hangar with the kind of the thing draped over the top of it, and then they didn't, it was like there was many different angles of the vehicle, many different views of the ship, and it was like, oh, okay, they clearly, they knew what they were doing there. That was a really good one, and that got me really hyped for it. This is like I did it at first grade, where it's just like I'm gonna get a bit of card and kind of take a bit, kind of lay it over the top of it, and then like just reveal slowly a little bit more of it every time. I know that I one of the guys in chat said a fantastic quote. He's like, well, I've waited how many years for this game? I'm not really bothered by 2 weeks, which I think is kind of true. That's very true. But I would have liked to have seen them maybe change it up a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? On the picture,
I would just like them to have released it within a week. I mean, like we often get moaned at that we're salty and things like that, which is fair comment to a certain degree. But I mean,
we're not salty.
They have literally just created. I mean, maybe it's brilliant marketing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's fantastic because now what they've done is they've created themselves a meme. There's just millions of them on there. So this is one of them that Bunsen just linked.
The memes are awesome, guys. They're so good.
I feel like just playing some of this music, and then we just have some quiet, sad.
This is getting very... Well, I did think that this was just them showing Quantum Jump. I thought this was originally them just showing what Quantum Jump is to the rest of the... If you come into Star Citizen, this is going to be your Quantum Jump experience. Very long. But I mean, I look at it. It reminds me a little bit of a frog. I mean, everyone's going. It's an interdiction ship, right? It's an interdicted. It's going to bring in. Everyone says it's going to bring interdicted gameplay, but this is a concept ship, right? So this won't be. Do we know if this is going to be immediately to release, like they've done on some of the other ships, or do we think this will be a pure concept, way down the line? Because there's nothing on the roadmap, I believe, that talks about interdiction in the game, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
99% interdiction, everyone's going.
There's like no talk. I don't think there's anything on the development for interdiction. Well, we've got it already with the NPCs. I mean, you get stopped 9 times jumping from one place to the other. So why not put some,
flight
players
concept?
that
going with flight ready. How do you know this?
So
am I missing something? Have they said it on Spectrum? Because sometimes there's information people are gathering from sources, legit, unlegit, people kind of going with it. I mean, I sometimes tend to find with CIG we get a ship ready, and then we get a concept long term. We get a ship ready, then we get a long term.
This is this week's reveals. Someone's managed to get a leak on it, and so we're going to know what we're going to see all week. So Tuesday, the bubble's going to get a little bit bigger.
So true.
Wednesday, you're going to get a double bubble.
No.
Thursday, and then Friday.
Do you know what I was thinking it'll be, Miz? It's going to be what's going to happen. The next picture will be from a different angle, a bit closer from the caterpillar's view, and we'll slowly see the ship coming towards the caterpillar, getting ready to launch its EMP interdiction bubble.
Or some people say it's going to be this one. A little gnome's going to come out of the warp. There's so many. There's people showing like an Idris shooting the little central thing, and this is the beginning of the ship just blowing up. It's just lasting 2 seconds, and it's
someone's going to do the Terminator afterwards. There's going to be Arnie in the middle of there naked, getting ready, and then suddenly appear. Oh man!
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I labelled it as the worst marketing campaign ever, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's the best because now everybody is making memes. It's going to be everywhere. We're all talking about it. Well, maybe we would talk about it anyway, so that's irrelevant. But yeah, it's everywhere. We all know it's the RSI ship. We all know, I think, pretty 90% sure it's the Mantis. I think it was been confirmed and said somewhere along the lines. And from the picture, it looks like something's quantum traveling, and it's probably going to EMP. But instead of an EMP, it's going to pull them out of quantum. That's probably what it is.
Yeah.
So
then I'm going to be very curious about how that's going to work. If it's going to be based on like an EMP is just going to shut down your quantum drive.
so you can't jump. Like, how they currently do like the jamming? Is it going to be like that? So is it going to actually be like a pulse, or is it going to be something that just keeps going and you're within
like
a
net.
huge area?
Could be like a net.
So like just like basically how you get stopped by the cops at the moment in the game, like how they stop you now from jumping. That's just basically it. You just have to fly fair within a certain distance of the caterpillar, and it just glows, and you're like, I'm being jammed, I can't jump away, and then you'll have this race type thing with everyone with the inability, because our flight model's all the same, so it'll just be the slowest. I'm slowly getting away. Oh, he's slowly catching up with me, because we don't have afterburners.
The thing I don't understand is the ship moving, or is it the asteroid that's moving? Because the caterpillar is not going anywhere, so maybe it's already caught in the net. Because if you look on each one of those pictures, the caterpillar is in exactly the same position, so you never know.
I like your thinking. It could not only that, but it stops you from being able to fly as well. Jams all your systems.
So yeah,
like
I think Bunsen's right, and we a few people have mentioned that I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but they mentioned that they really need to relabel the interdiction ships into interceptors because of what they do, and it was like. Yeah. Knowing that there's something else to fill the role of doing the interdiction, which is why they said that they need to rename it, basically. So I do think that it's not so much, the annoying thing isn't so much that we're all waiting to see what it is and what it is and what it does, because I think most of us have kind of guessed it, and yeah, we could be wrong, but most of us have guessed it. It's just like people are desperate to buy it. People are desperate to just see the information on it, and it's like, just give us the damn thing. Why are you teasing so badly? It's crazy. But
hey, there could be a big reveal, Miz. There could be a second ship. Suddenly
it's not that ship
out of
at
the
all.
corner of another part of the picture, another ship appears, and then everyone's going to lose their shit, because then it'll be like, and then everyone will be like, what's going on? And then in the third week, then another little ship appears, and then it'll be like, oh my god, what's going on?
This is going to be a reveal all the way to Citizen Car.
Just lots of ships slowly until the whole page is just full of all these little blacked out shapes for us to guess what the ships are.
So, I mean, the main question then I think is not so much like what ship it's going to be, is do we think it's going to be, so they've mentioned that they want to try and get concept ships flight ready for when they reveal them. They didn't do that with the Nautilus? That one, the one that drops the mines, they didn't do that. Do we think this one is going to be flyable?
It's a good case
when
for
it comes out.
Bunsen says he thinks it will be, I think, from what he was saying in chat, and because the gameplay, and I was saying like before, at the end of the day, the NPC ships are already interdicting us. You know what I mean? The gameplay mechanic of that is already in game. Depending on how much the assets are, what they're doing, if there's how much is new. It's perfectly possible.
That's a completely different thing. I was just on about, will the ship be flyable at first? But yeah, I was going to say that's another good point. If it's flyable, will the mechanic be there? That's definitely a good thing. But
I think so.
Going back to the first point quickly, is the only other twist on that I think is questionable, or I mean, whether it's flight ready. If it is flight ready, how are people's feelings going to be on that? I mean, it's a new ship, and wow, you can fly it straight away. But at the same breath, they've pushed back the Banu Merchantman because they said that they haven't had time to get it fixed in time. They've also then pushed back the Cutlass Blue because they said they haven't got enough time to do the blue and the red. And yet, out of nowhere, you get this completely new ship, which was never on the road, which was not known by anybody, and is all of a sudden coming out. I mean, we're going back down the line of they seem to be pushing the old ships out to one side and bringing out these new ones. So is it so they can just sell more concepts, or is it they seem to be managing to make these new ships now and not the ones that they promised a long time ago? Now we know some are due for Squadron 42, and that's why they're prioritizing them. And I suppose this could still be the same reason, but it just feels some people that are waiting for these things that, like, especially the Cutlass, you can't wonder like how difficult or how much of a change they are.
The blue is pretty. I reminded because I bought the blue. I bought the blue in 2017,
on the because I joined the 2016 and I missed the sale. I think it was, so I either bought it at the end of 2016 or I bought it in 2017. I can't remember exactly when, but I bought the CCUs. What I mean, upgraded my ship to get the Cutlass Blue, and it has been years, and I was under the impression that it was going to be pretty soon, and then they showed us pictures, concept drawings of like the head that looked like an alien, like xenomorph kind of head sculpted thing. It looked really cool, and then they just disappeared into the abyss of nowhere. So am I really super disappointed the blue's not really in? Not really. I've had the black. It's been pretty much fun to fly around with. So for me personally, as a person who owns the blue, I'm not too bothered about it, Miz. But I do agree, and I do think that there is like there's definitely keeping things quiet. And I don't know if that's I think it's for money. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say it straight up. I'm going to agree with you. I think it's for money. At the end of the day, all these other ships have already made them the money and they've already spent the money. You know what I mean? And they need to make more money. And that's the reality of it. And so they're probably going, we need to create new ships, to make more money. You guys go and do that. You know what I mean? Come up with new ships, make them. And the pipeline is so efficient now. I think that they're able, and the assets are there now, they're able to churn them out probably a lot faster in the background. And they are liking, with all these leaks as well that we get from Yuvakari, I'm not surprised that they are keeping a lot of things secret to try and, get that hype and surprise us. Because I think they like to surprise us a lot. They like their surprise mechanics.
Surprise! We didn't think it'd be done, but it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, this is speculation because we don't know whether it's going to be flight ready. No. This is just if it is. I just think
if it is,
we've had a couple of recent ships that were. I think it's not so much like things being pushed back. It's just that we've had recent ships that have almost been done, and then all of a sudden it's pushed back, like the Banu merchant. And then I know that not everybody that's working on, the Defender, not everybody's working on the same ship. I get that as well, so that's not going to be the case. But I mean, the other thing to think of is at this rate they've got. I mean, if they keep doing these ships and concept ships, at this rate we're going to have so many. We're going to have way more ships than anything else in the game. Gameplay loops, things to buy. There'll be more ships than guns. It's crazy amount of, like, compared to other games and stuff, the amount of ships that we've already got, or flyable and not flyable, just like literally on the moment. I think we're on, I don't know how many total, but
it was like 140 something at one point. I don't know if it was 100.
Yeah.
Which is, that's on. I don't know if that includes the ones that are in game yet, but it's a lot. But I mean, at the end of the day, how do you think they made $200 and $300 million nearly? It's like they've done that through selling spaceships, so they have to have sold quite a lot of them. And in order to keep people coming back to buy new ones, they have to keep producing new spaceships. So, like we said this before. I've said this before. Like, there comes a point where it's potentially damaging for the game, in the sense if they're having issues with the servers, to keep building spaceships, because then you keep filling the game with lots of spaceships, and rather than filling it with other types of content, you're filling it with spaceships. So there comes a point when they will have to maybe move away from like just putting tons more spaceships in and doing more the cosmetic stuff, the skins and the bits that you can do on the outside of spaceships, and selling all that kind of stuff. The problem is it doesn't make them as much money. No. You sell a couple skins for like $15 or whatever, great, but it's nothing compared to selling a variant of a spaceship rather than selling a skin of a spaceship. You know what I mean? I think the math probably speaks for itself. You sell the same amount of brand new spaceships at $90, $100 each versus, it's just that's the reason why we haven't had it. That's why I reckon they haven't pushed for it, because they know they still make more money selling spaceships. So, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. That's the way it is.
I mean, I see that there's a little bit of back and forth in the chat about interdicts and whether it's interdict jamming and all that sort of stuff. I think part of the problem is I don't think they know what it is and what they want to call it. I mean, the fact that their first ones were called interdict ships and now they're talking about changing them to interceptions or whatever.
Interceptors.
I think until they... I mean, this is maybe a gameplay that they thought they would link into something else and then thought, oh, actually, no, we can make more money and make a dedicated ship. No, not like that. But they could make a dedicated ship for that. I mean, we're definitely going down the line of ships having a pretty specific role and less on the terms of a multi-role ship. I'm not saying that we don't have multi-role ships, but I think they seem to keep wanting to push a little bit more down the line of individual ships for certain purposes. And I think it's kind of a case of, as this is maybe a mechanic that they hadn't... I mean, we know that they do stuff that they hadn't thought about at the start, and then thought, well, actually, no, we need maybe a way to stop this. So I think when they know what they're doing, and then they relabel stuff, it'll be a bit more clear as into whether it's going to interdict or whatever you want to call it and pull people out of quantum, whether it'll stop people from quantum. I mean, this was something that was mentioned a while back. They did say there were going to be some ships that would...
Yeah,
They mentioned it like a net. I can't remember what one it was, but I do remember them discussing it, and they said it was kind of like, if you had a few of these ships set up, they said you could basically create a net. Now, to me, that means that it's not just jamming someone from going into quantum, but actually pulling someone out of it. So, like, as if they would fly into this thing, kind of like you do now. Like you said, you fly in proximity, and then the NPCs pull you out of that quantum jump to scan you.
It all depends how big. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see when whereas this is super speculation, but I mean, it's like, it'd be really interesting to see, obviously, if it's confirmed that it is an interdicting ship or an interceptor ship, and it's going to be interesting to see, like you say, what the radius of this will be. Because the reality is I always look at it this way and I go, if you make this have a massive radius because the game is so big, that means that our ships, by the way, that are getting slower, are going to have a harder time to get to the interceptor ship to stop it from intercepting you. So there will be a balancing issue immediately there. Like I can immediately see a problem. Like if you're like 100k away and you can intercept because you're going to create this amazing net, or you need to have many different spaceships to create this many amazing net. Could you imagine how painful that will be for players? So they'll have to make it smaller, which then kind of then for me already kind of makes it then creating this net and being an interdiction ship will be kind of really tricky to do. Whereas in my head, I think being an interceptor is something that just stops you from jumping away, or, when being a trap for when people jump to locations and things like that so that they can't get away, for me feels more simple. And more achievable with what they already have shown us in game, and I think will probably be where they go. I love the idea. I think they spoke about it, I think I like all things back on all captains' tables and all these round tables that they do, and these things they talk about it in great length of how they want to try this, and Tony gets all elaborate and excited and starts talking about how he's going to pull things out and all this stuff, and everyone goes woo. I think the reality is that's not going to happen, and it'll just be stopping you from jumping away. It's the honest truth, and that's why they're changing the name to an interceptor, not an interdiction ship. And they'll still say, "Oh, but don't worry, guys, we'll get it sorted sometime down the line." Just keep that in mind, so people can still maintain their hype. But I think it'll be an interceptor. That's just my view.
Could be. I mean,
we'll find out
because like you said, making the sort of net thing, like you said, is going to be difficult to try and judge where people are jumping from, and then creating that as a net. But I mean,
I just can't see it happening.
Having all these like specific tasks for a ship, though, you're going to end up flying everywhere with such an entourage of it's like going with like a crazy carnival zoo type of thing with all different animals. It's like you got someone to stop someone from jumping, but then you're going to have an EMP to EMP that ship that's stopping you from jumping, so you can then jump. And then,
you could... I mean, that's it. I mean, that's a whole nother line. I was just thinking exactly the same thing when I was thinking about it. If we start to have so many dedicated ships for dedicated things, you are going to, that's the whole point of these orgs. You are going to have to fly around in, like, if you want to be an effective, intercepting, stopping people, you're going to have to have 12 mates. You're every time you go out anywhere, you're going to have to go out with a group of people. Plus, you're going to have your salvage mates and your other mate and your other mate. He's all going to be doing the other back end stuff as well to clear it up. So, yeah, it's you like before you know it, you're gonna have your entire org is going to be the entire server.
But then you have to take a refueler, so it comes and refuels your ship as you go along.
you're gonna have server capacity of 25 people. Your org to just do a fairly competent hunt and gather and reclaim will be 18 people in 18 different spaceships to be efficient at what you're doing. Yeah, no. Again, they are in danger of that, and that's why modularity and the ability to have spaceships that maybe do a couple tasks would be very useful for the game. But again, their problem is fundamentally how they are creating the money for the game. You know what I mean? That's where their fundamental problem is. Now, I was really pleased with the way that they did the attachment for the mining on the hand, on the tool. Yeah. I hope they do a little bit more of that for the spaceships, you know. So we know that the Cutlass is quite utilitarian. It's supposed to have a tractor beam. Maybe, you know, it would be cool to have like a mining attachment for the Cutlass. You know what I mean? Or some of the other ships. Like so you could potentially gather some basic stuff.
I think the way that we're going away from that stuff is I think we're not going to get that. I know. Because they're pulling away from, like I said, the fact that we've got individual ships for it, that wouldn't make sense because it's all right putting the laser on the front, but it's then how does it gather it? Whereas it
could be inefficient though, Miz. It could be inefficient. It could be really raw. You know what I mean? Like it's not a very good laser. You know what I mean? It doesn't give you the best yield. If you want to be really efficient, you use the prospector. But if you want to if you're in an area in space and you say, oh shit, there's a rock there, I could make a bit of money out of it. You know, you could get out with your tool, do the tool mining, gather it, and then you also maybe have the laser on the side of where the tractor beam is, and you can flick it around. And
you could have it working like a giant. Like the hand tool one where it just breaks the rock up but doesn't gather it, I suppose. But then, even then, how are you going to gather them shards to become something to put in the box in the back of your thing? I just don't think we're going to see it, to be honest. And not when they can sell a whole different specific ship that does it anyway. I mean, the whole point is if you wanted it to be... I mean, so one of the things that they showed you with the multi-tool is that you're going to go and be able to mine asteroids with it. And so I think... that's going to be a utility. The ship itself's not going to do it, but you can go and take a few people and they could jump out the side of the Cutlass and start mining with their little multi-tool instead. So I just don't think we're going to get it on the ships.
No, I agree. I think, I agree. I just think that it's dangerous. You know, it's dangerous whilst they're clearly having problems. Yeah, that's just while they're having problems with the server tech, you know, like the answer obviously if they can genuinely do the server technology that they talk about and create an open, almost limitless number of players in a server, and you know, open it up so you never have to worry about performance issues because you can just keep piling in as many, you know, ships and bits into ships and everything else, you know, the dream. Then
this is all fine. You know, they can have as many ships as they want in the game, and you know, it's fine. It's fine. So, but we'll see.
Well, obviously the aim is to that. I mean, maybe when they realise they can't have so many people on the server, they would go to a more multi-specific ship. But yeah, I think for now that's not something we're going to see. Going back quickly to the interdiction or to the surprise ship. Going by the picture and the fact that it's showing you a big area of effect circle, because I saw some people mention that. I'm guessing it's an area of effects. I was going to say spell, then it's not D&D. It's an area of effects, like job rather like the EMP is. It's not going to be a single target select thing. I mean, it could be, but it seems unlikely when they're showing you a big area of effect thing on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, honestly, I just think it's going to be like the way the NPCs stop you. Honestly, I think it's just going to be the way that you see that guy, red glowing ship, the little marker to say, and you see the little thing when you try to do a quantum and it says you're being jammed. I think that's what it'll be. It's already in.
You've dropped your bubble, roll 4d6.
I dropped darkness. Roll darkness.
No, that's
no
the
one's
next
going
ship.
anywhere.
That's the next one. Hey, that would be.
I'm all for that.
Drop darkness that you couldn't see from. That would actually be pretty cool. Like almost like an octopus that drops the ink out the back, so you can't see where you're going. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh,
imagine
no
that.
More ideas
these people
for
like mining in a minefield, and then you just come along and just darkness everything. They can't see where they're going, and all of a sudden just get these explosions as they hit the rocks.
Yeah.
Do it, CIG. If you're watching, if you're listening, we need a squid ship. Maybe it could be Vandal.
No, we don't.
Or something like that.
The RS.
Don't. The squid. That would be dope.
The Kraken.
For a Vandal spaceship.
Go with the Kraken. It could be a Drake thing.
Could be a Drake. Oh, God.
The Drake
Kraken
squid.
and the squid.
Got the squid. Bit of squid ink in space. Why not? What's wrong with that? It's a genius idea.
The ship would have to be like translucent, so it changes color and shit, and you can see everybody running around on the inside and stuff. That would be like pulsing.
Oh my god! A stealth ship that changes to camouflage what rocket's sitting next to and drops ink. There we go. We have it, guys. The next ship. When they do the next competition to make the next great starship, we've got it. The Drake squid that can camouflage and can drop ink. Perfect. I would buy that shit right now.
Calamari. The calamari. There's just nailed the name. The calamari.
The calamari.
Oh my god. I'll tell you what, deep fried, it'll probably taste delicious.
Oh, damn. Sorry, yeah, it was all under NDA. I shouldn't have been talking about that. Oh, man.
Oh my goodness. Right. Anyway, back onto a topic of conversation. Because I'm like, we'll wait and see. Like when the ale comes out, it'll all become clear what it is. It's RSI, so all you got to do is just shoot the tail of it, and it'll be dead. It's not a problem. That's all I'm saying. And then just fly away. So just launch a couple shots at it. But like I said, my main worry is if the range is enormous, how are you going to hit it? You know what I mean? And then like, yeah, I wonder if we'll be able to do component targeting on that as well. So you'll component target the jammer on that ship to shoot it. And then I have questions like, will it be affected by EMP?
I think so.
You
That's
know,
what you're going to
will EMP ships be affected by it?
Both power up and you just get these two clashing.
Will we be able to? I'm all for like positive and negative. So for me, like, will I be able? Like, these are the questions to answer. Can I put a component on my spaceship that will stop me from being jammed? A bit like how Eve does it, where if the guy's got a jammer of level 1 and I have a blocker of level 1, I block it. But if he has a jammer of level 2 and I only have a blocker of level 1, it breaks through. Now. To be able to just not blocking, but just you have the ability to on your ship so that he has to have a better gear. So you get better gear, basically better components, so you can not be blocked by him effectively or not be jammed. Or will it be no? It's not going to work like that. He's got a jammer and you don't, and you're just going to be jammed and you'll have to fight him or stuff. I'm all for the layering kind of thing where like if you've done better in the game or you've got a bit more money. Yeah, pretty much. You can kind of, swift. He tries to jam you in his little RSI interdict. You'd be like, "Bye, see you later." You still can't catch me.
I see. This is the thing that we're not getting any information or anything towards, which is like the multi-crew thing, and like how like these jamming and the EMPs and that. It'd be really interesting to think of how this could be played out on these bigger capital ships and how your crew can actually work together to combat them, counteract them, that sort of thing. Like, could they be doing something to stop that jammer from release your quantum, let you jump, sort of thing? It's
hopefully.
Like, because we're not getting any of that at the moment, and it's like maybe because they're just struggling to get the basics of it. But the problem is, it's like anything, isn't it? You like, well, you want to implement the first thing before you go somewhere else, but then you also kind of need to think about the future and how it can work as a multi-crew thing before you develop. Otherwise, you're just remaking everything again. Because like, oh no, we need to remake that so that we can think about it from a multi-crew point of view. So,
I mean, that whole line of like thought process kind of really got me thinking. Before we kind of were doing the podcast a couple of days ago, and I was sat I do that, when I'm away from my children, locked away in the bathroom trying to hide. As you do when anyone's got kids, you understand the bathroom is a sacred place, and from the wife,
it puts like salt along the entrance you cannot cross. The sacred
on the door, everything.
Got all the rooms.
Garlic hanging up on either side. So be like, I have to let them enter in, otherwise, they melt, kind of thing. They're not allowed in. But it got me thinking, just like in terms of lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Oh, it's to do with. Sorry, it's fine. I do it all the time. It's to do with the way that to do with like the way you make the game, like in terms of if I were making a game, do I make tier 0 of one thing and then move to another tier 0 of one thing and another one of tier 0 one thing and another one of tier 0 and then we'll bring it all together? Or do I really make this one thing fully fleshed all the way through and then have it ready to go and then build the next one and then slowly and then only have a few pieces rather than having like say 20 tier ones. Do you know what I mean? Because you only have so much resources to use. So do you like be like how No Man's Sky kind of like it built its core part of its game, then it kind of released that, and then over the years it kind of added to it, iterated it, took things away and improved that as a whole as it's gone along, and just keeps adding, bulking on, kind of like patch and DLC, kind of patch. Star Citizen, rather than doing it that way, they're going, okay, we're going to go do 20 things, 30 things, and then at tier 0, and then we'll come back to it in that way. What's a good way of doing it, or are they doing the smaller pieces? Does that make sense? It's hard to try and
you kind of, well, right. I mean, I don't know, I'm not a game developer, but personally I would say a bit of both. I know that sounds like a cop-out, but I mean, in terms of, I think it's better to do lots of tier 0, but I don't think it's good to just go endless tier 0 for every, like we just come up with a new idea. Don't go endless from every new idea you have. All right, okay, let's develop that tier 0. I think you need to kind of have it as, okay, these are our basic functions. So trade, mining, bounty hunting and pirating, for example, right? Let's make those tier 0 work all on those tier 0. Then, because there's obviously going to be elements where those clash or merge in terms of gameplay wise. So your bounty hunting may well merge with pirating, or it may merge with transport. And so you kind of need to know also how those sort of things will play together. Whereas if you build each one in isolation, you're not even thinking about how the other stuff's going to interact with that in gameplay wise, and then it's going to be harder to make that merge into a joint gameplay if you've built one completely, because you've then got to rip that apart to help. If that makes sense, I don't make sense in my own head, but I know what I'm trying to say. I don't know if I said it very well. Yeah. I think it's like I'm trying to think of two different professions that would play into each other. Like I suppose kind of like policing and bounty hunting. If you can't arrest someone or find that they're a criminal, then you can't do the bounty hunter element. So you know what I mean? They kind of go together, sort of thing.
Yeah,
I think that's probably some of the game mechanics that we're probably getting is predominantly based. I mean, they probably spoke about it, but that's probably why we've got certain things, the way that they are. I mean, with the tools, the caves and stuff, are a result, they said, obviously, of the truck stops. So, it's like, well, we did this, and then we can do this. We create the bounty hunting mechanic, and then we can do this, but then there does tend to be like a huge amount of offshoot around those things, and I sometimes wonder if they go too far down rabbit holes. You know what I mean? They go chasing too many times. It's just kind of like has a bit of a negative effect. And it's one of the reasons why maybe it's been so slow for certain things, because maybe they don't have as much control as they need to. I don't know. This is just theories, but maybe they go a little bit too far. It's too tempting. I could imagine it being very tempting to go sprint down here, sprint down here, sprint down here, sprint down here, sprint down here. But anyway, it just got me thinking. I do that. I kind of like try to think of like topics and conversations to talk about on the podcast. Because I know there's a lot of people out there in chat and people who have got game experience and development experience. YouTube, whatever, is a great format. Like I say, last week we had a lot of great feedback, and I say that again to YouTube people. Give us your thoughts. Like end of the day, give us your thoughts on like the way, if you were making it, if you're a game developer, do you, or your experience, is that a way of doing it? Is it a bit of both? Is it more predominantly historically one way of doing it? Curious to know.
Thinking definitely hurts. Okay, so we have those of you that are new to the I know a few people come in and followed. We do have you can ask questions in chat, but as you can see, it kind of goes very fast. So we try to look at it, and with this podcast, we do try to be involved in chat, because we feel like if it's a good conversation, then we carry that conversation on, and it's enjoyment for everybody. So we do try to be a little bit more interactive with chat. But if you've got a question that you really want to ask and we miss it, whatever, just use, as Bunsen's highlighting, the question form, fill in that for us, and then I'm looking at them now and going through them. So if they're like linked, I'll pick them out and we'll answer the questions. In the same way, anybody that's on YouTube, if you ask any questions for us, we can pick them up and answer them next week as well. So it's all about
and if you want topics, I always say, if you've got topics that you want us to discuss, or if there's something burning on your mind, an agenda, something you want us to say about, I pick them up. I'm always interested in people's opinions on things and stuff. It's always good conversations, positive and negative. It's very much a show for both sides. We're not biased either way. We all fundamentally want this game to be super successful, and we really want Star Citizen to exist, to be finished, and to be the best space damn game
ever made. That's fundamentally never going to change. That's definitely a fact.
I mean, we are setting up the Discord. I don't know if we've got the link for it, but we'll set up a room so if people have things they want to discuss, they can drop discussion topics on there, and then we can bring them up in the podcast then. So keep an eye out for that. We have got a Discord link. There you go. You can join our Discord link, I think.
There you go.
And we'll make a room for that.
Buns has just added everyone to our channel.
Yay! Everybody's in. Right, okay, so going to the questions. We were talking a little bit about was it mining? There was two. Okay, so there's mining, and then there's someone else that done one on the QA. So we're talking about the new ship a little bit. So let's go back to that for a second. I was away when this happened, but there was basically Erebus Kingsley, sorry if I butchered the name, I always do. Instead of a QA only Star Citizen video on concept ships, what are your opinions on having the CIG devs do a PowerPoint presentation like they did with the Nautilus, explaining how the ships work and all the different mechanics explained in detail, and then have a QA afterwards? So I think I must have been away when that video came out, so I didn't actually see it. I need to go back. I thought I went back on everything, but maybe
for that type of.
I'm all for simplicity, I would really ideally, I'm an advocate for the web page being accurate. It's been too long. Matrix being accurate, it's too long. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for CIG that their go-to thing for anybody out there that you use to spend fundamentally money, and we're not talking chump change here, we're talking hundreds and thousands of dollars, is incorrect, is embarrassing. I'm sorry. I've said it before on previous episodes. I'm never going to change my opinion on this until that ship matrix, until that web page is as close to accurate. I can forgive him a few mistakes. No one's perfect, but it's embarrassing that for so long it's so many pieces are convoluted, long-winded, confusing. Gift cards don't make sense. Finally they're fixing that this year, but I'm waiting for that to be 100% confirmed. But the fact that you can't use that, it's a mess, and they promised us that it would be improved, and it hasn't been improved in my opinion. So for me, I am 100% Kingsley, whatever, man. Like seriously, like if they could improve the breakdown beforehand as well would be great. I'd love for these ships to have more information before they even come on sale. You know what I mean? That would be great. They always seem to come on sale, and then there's a Q&A, and then there's an information breakdown. It would be great if we had that, like, here's the ship concept, here's the Q&A, and here's the ship now for sale.
Yeah. It does always seem to be a backward way around doing it.
It's dirty. I don't like it.
In terms of the question, though, is
Sorry, did I miss it?
I think the more information they can give, the better, rather than just saying, here's a ship. If they can, because they have the Q&A, and if you haven't seen or read anything about the ship, people are asking ridiculous questions that A, could have been answered, or B, that are kind of obvious once they give you the information. So I do definitely think having the PowerPoint presentation, however you want to do it. Like, I also feel like they don't show you it on there, but then sometimes afterwards in a brochure or something, they show you, like, or on Twitter, you'll get the odd, this was an old concept picture. I'd love to have it as a whole talk through. So this is the design process and where we started for this ship. This is some of the ideas that come scribbled up from that design process, and then this is where we're at with it, and this is why we're at there with it, because it's kind of cool to see where they were. Like, we've seen some of these old concept pictures of the old bugs and things like that, and it's like, I kind of like to see their thought process, how they got through it, rather than we just thought about this yesterday and threw it on a little napkin in a cafe and said, there you go, let's release this ship, because I'm sure it doesn't done like that.
That's in the vault. So if you're a subscriber, you get access to the vault. So the theory is that you can go in. You can.
Well, the theory is
I have enough of my money. Tell me, if I'm going to buy the ship, I want the information on the ship I'm buying. I don't want to have to subscribe to then go and find out about the ship I'm freaking buying.
I'm playing the other side here. I'm pitching on the other side, and I'm just saying that you could argue that it's in the vault, so in theory there's all the concepts, and they do drop them in there so you can catch up on the pictures and stuff. They did again though, but we are that generation where we got to enjoy. I mean, if there's a whole new group of people out there who have been starved with 10-minute videos and Inside Star Citizen and 10-minute ATVs, we used to enjoy. I used to get beforehand really long depth videos, 20-minute segments where they would talk about the latest starships, the concept ships that were coming out. So we did used to get that, but a lot of those ships is, like you just said at the beginning of the stream, haven't even been made. So, like having a huge spiel and hours of them talking about it and spending all that time, and the ships aren't even ready, kind of maybe is a bit of a waste of time. But if they are ships already good to go, then I would say definitely worth doing. That's the way I look at it. Jump points is so good though.
I don't know. Jump points are good. We'll find out.
So I will wait for Miz to come back so we can then go through more questions and stuff. But there was a thing on. Let me just get my notes up here, guys. 2 seconds. On the forums. So we will be looking through some leaks. So we have, so if anyone obviously doesn't want to see any leaks, we'll be looking at a couple of leaks. Nothing too major, nothing too, like, it's not going to spoil your game life experience. I'm like, a picture of a Banu Defender, I mean, come on, we've seen the Banu Defender 1,000 times in pictures and already, so that's not going to break anyone's immersion. If anyone gets broken immersion from that, my God. So there's a picture of a Banu Defender we'll show, and then there's... this is not even a leak. This is just like, it's basically someone's taken a bit of code and it shows that the Banu uses the Tachyon Banu cannon. I was just like going, okay, thank you, Captain Obvious. I'm like, the Banu ship is using a Banu gun.
Wow. That's a leak right there, chat.
What the hell is the NDA for that? It's just not even worth it. I mean, we could talk about that again for sure. Like, I still think the NDA just seems strange sometimes on things. I mean, like, we've seen so much of this information and then no one can talk about it. So there's a couple things there. We have, again, leaks on the cave. It's like someone put a leak of the cave and it's like, we just saw that on Inside Star Citizen. So twice. I've seen people walking around caves. And if you go onto the YouTube, like Board Gamer, Super Matt Rose, Ryan, all those guys, I've all got the videos of the caves anyway. So I've seen like some guy walking around a cave 1,000 times.
The cave is a lie.
Already. So that's not a leak. Got to get good with these leaks, Reddit. Like, they're slacking off hard. There's clearly not enough stuff in 3.7 that's worth. Everything is, or CIG's done a good job maybe of not giving us, of giving us all the stuff beforehand. And that's it. And then, there was just there's the landing. I don't know if anyone's seen the proximity flight landing stuff. There is a video there showing that clearly they just rolled it back, in my opinion, because the flight, you can now just go whoop with the spaceship. So anyone that hated that mechanic of being able to sit above a target and just fly above it is back at the moment. Now, maybe they're going to fix it more. Maybe it's missing this thing that Coulson talked about, how, you're going to slow down an atmosphere. It's going to affect the engines and all this stuff. Personally, I would just say stick like overheating and fuel mechanic. Running out of fuel would probably be fine. So people can't sit there for ages. Or make it so they just can't pitch so high. I don't know. I personally just think
I had one idea.
There's other ways to do it.
I had one idea for this. This could be a crap idea, but this is one thing I thought about it. It's because people were moaning that the whole... It seems to me that people are moaning the fact that you can hover is that you can basically become a turret. You can just sit there and be a ship turret, and people don't seem to like that. So I was thinking that maybe they could do it so that like the helicopter mode thing could be still in. Hear me out. But when you put the landing gear down, your thrusters let you hover. So you could hover in landing mode and land up, because that was the only thing people were moaning about, is that you can't land because it keeps making you go all over the place. Well, and then
you can't take off either.
Well, yeah. Anyway, whatever, it doesn't work. So with your landing gears down, your thrusters are supporting and it all works fine. And then as soon as you put your landing mode up, the other thing, your main thrusters kick in more, so you can't just hover there. And so that would stop you being a turret. Then if you make it so that your guns don't fire when your landing gear's down. So when your landing gear's down, your guns don't fire, therefore you don't go all over the place. Just, why not?
It's possible. I honestly think there's a couple of solutions that they could probably try. So
we'll wait and see. Wait and see, chat. We'll wait and see when we play it. I thoroughly expect the hardcore sim guys are going to cry. And the people who are more kind of like bored of watching Yeah, and there's going to be all the people who have been struggling with it, and crashing their ships all over the place and smashing into things and wasting hours and hours and hours and just kind of to the point where they don't want to play. They'll be back again and going, yay, I can land again at Hurston. I can land again without flying to the side and smashing into all of my ships and creating fantastic YouTube content, but annoying the hell out of most people when they're your average player. Which is ultimately, you have to remember, ultimately it's the commercial, the average player as well. That's kind of like the big thing for me is we said last week is the growing divide between the commercial gamer and the hardcore sim backer. Now, the hardcore sim backer is probably one of the only is got a loud voice at the moment within Star Citizen, because I hate to say it to them, but you are like what the combat pilots were of the 2-point patches. The combat pilots of the 2-point patches were the loudest voice at that time because they were the hardcore. They played it all the time because that was what ultimately the game was all about. Heavily was combat, and then as 3.0 has expanded into it and there's been more and more of the kind of simulation games and the cargo running and all this other stuff's come in and the combat got trashed, that kind of voice have died down, and now you've been left with a lot of the simulation kind of like hardcore DSC kind of guys, whatever they're called, that game's called, people, and that voice is loud at the moment. And I hate to say it, but you're not the commercial gamers. You're actually just like the combat guys, a bit of a small pie.
The reality is, now people aren't going to like the analogy, but it's like World of Warcraft. When that came in, it grabbed all the, not even the best parts, but the things that made something easy to use and put it all into one MMO. And that's why it's so popular. And if that's what they're aiming for this game, it's going to be something that like, you'll get people like hardcore raiders who won't want to play like World of Warcraft. You get people that prefer the story, won't play that, whatever. And it's the same with this. It's like you said, the majority of people want this as a game. It's not a simulator. It's not Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it's also not an arcade game either. It's an in-between of being enjoyable. It's still a game, not real life. We're not playing Second Life. And so they're the people that they really want to appeal to, because it's going to be to the majority of people that are playing. Now, not necessarily the amount of people that are playing the game now. They could be, the majority of them sort of people could be people that aren't even playing the game at the moment. They're waiting for the game to be released. But your mass market are those people that are probably not even playing. So, that's who they're going to appeal to. They're not going to appeal to just the combat people or just the people that want a simulator, because it's not a simulator.
Yeah, I think it's the thing is like, we said this before, and I don't want to go on about it too much, but it's like they keep it broad because they want to make money. So the sim boys hear all the things that they want to hear. The combat guys don't necessarily hear at the moment as much as we want to hear, but the PvEers hear a lot about what they want to hear. There's a lot of, they keep everything very open and very fluid to try and keep everybody happy. But it's going to be really interesting when we get to crunch time, how much they lose. You know what I mean? How simulated the game goes versus the other way, are more kind of, because I hate the word arcade, because arcade is not really a true reflection of it. I just say commercial gamers.
Yeah.
I go commercial gaming. I go, we say you can say easy mode, I suppose, but I don't think I think that's even more disjustice as well, because I don't play easy mode. I don't play arcadey. I play, it took me a long time. I put a lot of dedication and time into learning.
Or the one above that. Once I get better, I go to the next level. I never go hardcore, and I never go easy in the game.
Not straight away.
But the thing is, as well, though, is like I see people saying, "Oh, it's easy to learn, hard to master, blah blah blah." But it's to me, there has to be an element where it has to work out of the gate. Like, so there's obviously things that you need to get better at. So there's things that you practice and you get better. And like, say for example, I think most people would agree that people that spend more time at combat will eventually be better combat pilots, and so will do better in combat. The same way as FPS. The more FPS to do, more practice of FPS. But where do you draw the line in what you need? Like, anyone can pick up a gun and start shooting someone at FPS. The learning curve's not that steep that you can't actually shoot somebody with a gun. It's not like, I want a special realistic mode that I've got to clean and build my gun before I can shoot it. The same way as space combat. If you're in a ship, you can just point your ship in the right direction and press fire, and it will work. Now, if the landing and the taking off mode is that bad that you can't, the first person that's never touched a game gets in a ship and can't even just go up and take off, there's a problem with that. Does everything need to require a learning curve? Do you need to be a pro at landing and taking off? Is that really something that you need to master, whereas opposed to mastering combat and mining? Like, just taking off and landing is not really a thing that you need to master. In my opinion, it's just something that you need to do.
Unless you're playing a simulation game.
Yeah, if you're playing DCS space game, then it makes sense. You got to go flick all the little switches. You got to know where all the little power things are. You got to know where you got to have all your things. That's like Hellion. That's more kind of a Hellion style. Everything kind of is like real. It's like if you're a real astronaut, kind of. In a real, Yeah, the reality is that that's not in my head. I go, that's not really real because we don't.
But when you
never
play
exist in that game.
And when you play a sim, though, that is all there is to do, is to learn and master the taking off and landing. Yeah, but it's also what you do. That is the game, right? Life. Whereas this is.
But there's no sim space game. So I mean, it doesn't exist though, Miz. That's the way I look at it. It's like this is fantasy effectively because we have no spaceships like this that can go out and travel. So it's all subjective to somebody else's kind of like imagination. Do you know what I mean? Whereas with DCS World, we really do have the F-18 flight. We really do have a bomber. We really do have a Boeing 747. We really do have those things really do exist in this world. So you can really match it against real world things. We have gravity in this planet, math and stuff. It's been done, so you can really make it a true simulation game. You could do, if this was NASA, space shuttles, whatever, sorry, and this game was that, then you could make it a simulation. But after that, once you're going into spaceships and things, you're getting into a world of subjective opinions and views and based on this and that and all the rest of it. And that's where I kind of go, that's why I just think it's so dangerous if you go too simmy, because it's like, it doesn't exist, guys. It's totally not real. And your opinion on, then you'll have fights. The best bit is when I see a simulation fanboy fighting with a simulation fanboy. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the best fights. That's like literally watching like two nerds fight at school who don't know how to fight, just slapping each other. Ah! It's just like I just sit there with my popcorn, just going, "This is brilliant, guys! I'll watch this all day long." It's not good.
And
it's not good.
Probably, it's just the flight model again and talking about it. But the only other thing I would say about the hover mode type of thing as well is, I also think it was a very bad move to put it in the game without all the features. So I can see people in chat are talking about, well, if you added this computer assist and auto land, if you're going to want people to test something, and if you're going to want people to agree whether it's a good flight mechanic or a good, the hover mode is a good mode, you need the other shit that goes. This is a bit like when you're talking about the different tier zeros. Do you just work on one or do you do multiple? Because if you don't have that radar that tells you where you are in situation to your landing zone, then you can't test it. So most people are crashing because they then look out the window or they have to go third person to see whether they're lined up. And then that's when the ship starts going all over the place. And so all people are doing is, straight out the bat, it's like this hover mode is shit. Now, maybe if we had the radar within your ship that told you that, you flew over and then you could see the patch light up and say, right, you're in position, go down, maybe that would have been better. But we don't know because they didn't implement that at the same time. So it's like, it's asking you to tell us how swords are in the game, but not actually giving you any swords to play with. Almost, it's like, if you want a proper opinion, you're gonna get an opinion with what's available at the moment. And because they didn't give us all the features, everybody or a big chunk of people thought the hover mode sucked, basically. And that's just it. I want to play with the sword. I do in every game. Well, who doesn't?
I would love a sword in this game. I'm just going to say straight out the bat, like a freaking cool ninja sword or some sort of kind of like energy weapon sword. I mean, I'm hoping we get all this stuff. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. But
if anybody's seen me shoot,
melee.
It's same as with my ship. I always want lasers because I run out of ammo, and it'd be the same with a gun. I don't need a gun because I'll just run out of ammo. So give me a sword because at least I know it's there all the time.
Just kind of like
I want to have. You need to have like a projectile shield, that can stop bullets, and you need a sword. You know what I mean?
The
Like, you
Moby
need to have,
glass
like,
with it goes and just creates like a force shield. Yes.
and it kind of goes the shield, and then you have the sword, and then that's like you kind of like the duo kind of thing. You have to have both or something, or some sort of, or it could be like linked so that the shield kind of becomes a sword afterwards. So once you've got close enough, then you drop the shield, and it turns into a cool sword, and like, ooh. Sorry, I'm building a game that's not Star Citizen.
So until we get that, we're going to use glow sticks as swords instead.
Yeah, glow stick raves. I don't know how many pictures I'm going to see of people on 890s and in caves with this, like, you know, the party kind of glow stick. I'm hoping for someone's going to go a bit more classy and like do like a black and white kind of picture of people outside the front, maybe holding like a kind of a couple fruits like stacked up and stuff, as if it's like an Egyptian kind of style, like they found like a kind of a temple of Tutankhamun or something and uncovered some secrets. That would be kind of cool. Yeah, I'll be bored. We could talk about caves if you want to. I mean, but I was going to say, as we just briefly talked about the Moby glass, somebody said on Reddit, which I thought was a really cool topic, which was really interesting. They said he wanted to allow him to claim his ships through his Moby glass. And I was like, do you know what? I agree with you. Like, and chat was, and actually Reddit, they're kind of like, again, I think Reddit's doing a great job of posting some really good stuff. Because some people talk about the ability to lock and unlock their opening doors from the Moby glass. Now, I know CIG is working on the UI system.
Yeah, and I'm sure they spoke about
nice.
that before. I'm sure they did speak about being able to lock and unlock your doors with a Moby glass. And
it'd be great to do that, but also, like, to claim your ships from your Moby glass would be kind of cool,
if your ship
right?
is due to insurance rather than station-based, then yeah, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to reclaim it. It makes sense, wouldn't it? It's like you picking up the phone and saying, like, yeah, my ship's stuffed, can I get a new one?
Well, you can do it in Grand Theft Auto. You ring up the guy like to come over and deliver your car to you. You know, you ring him up and be like, hey, can you come and deliver my car? You know, it's like the same kind of thing. Would be kind of cool to have using the comm system. Another way of maybe using the comm system. So rather than like how we dial in when we land, you dial in on the comm system to say, hey, can you claim my, you know, whatever ship, you can access it and then send a mail. I don't know. Just something. I was with the person that put this. I think there's something there, and I really hope with the new UI that could be a feature. That would be really cool, and it would save a bit of time.
Could you, like, if you can talk to comms within the station, couldn't you just talk to comms via Moby Glass to then get your ship, rather than going to one of the panels on the wall and going, I want this ship?
Yeah, I think so. I just
why not? You know, if you're talking, if you've got to communicate them to land, why not communicate with them and just say, well, you know, what, you could be sitting in your bed and going, right, let me get my ship called up, and instead of keep going all the way down to the panel, you can just go straight to your landing pad.
Yeah, exactly. It's already, you know exactly what it is. Now, I think there would be, again, it's like, I look at the game and I find it clunky at times. And I've said this before in other people's streams, I find it clunky. It doesn't feel fluid. And the more we play through and watch the iterations, I kind of go, you could streamline here. You know what I mean? This is a potential way to speed up the process. Like the way that I have always jumped through the window to get to the desk, because it's just faster. You know what I mean? It's like architects drive me crazy when they build these amazing buildings and then they build this meandering path that leads you down a wonderful path. And then there's the shortest way to get there is that way. And you see the track has been well and truly worn because everybody with their common sense, they don't give a shit about the winding path. They just want to get from A to B, you know? And it's the same thing with Star Citizen. I feel they fall so foul.
That's why you get people when they jump over balconies and things like that, isn't it? It's because you just want to get out there and get to your pads, sort of thing, yeah. It's like,
and when you first do it, you take the path. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool, blah, blah, blah. But when you've done it for the 20th, 30th, 40th, 50th time, you're going down that worn track because you're like, I really don't, this is just taking too long, you know? Yeah, totally. You know? And so...
And on that same note, I'm also still seeing a lot. Every time there's a new player, especially like on the Facebook Star Citizen group, there's someone goes, hi, I'm new. This game is the most confusing thing to jump into, and if I die, you know, all these newbie questions. If I die, will I keep my gun? If I die, do I lose? Like, if it's in your hand, you lose it, but if it's on your back, you keep it. Your armor you keep, but you lose. It's like, it's still a minefield when you come into this game, and it's. I know it's still early alpha and there's no tutorials and stuff, but I'm just saying.
No, there are. There's some tutorials, but not many, and they're not 100% as always. And I don't think they should. I don't know. I'm like, on the tutorial thing though, Miz, like seriously,
No, but
this
I
game is so
mean,
broken.
not
though,
so much
like,
in terms of
guides.
tutorials, but in like you were saying about the smoothness of how it works. Like you jump in, and it's not that obvious as soon as you jump in the game how to do stuff, where things are, and that. With like if you're completely new, it's
an art form. It's that is an art form of like patience, time, practice. Don't you think? Like other games that you've played, like think of a game where you've gone into it and it's been almost like, for me, Red Dead Redemption was one of the best games that I got into. A lot of games also, like we did it the other day, didn't we, when we were doing on Borderlands. Today we're walking around the ship, it almost it leads you to learn where everything is, you know what I mean? Because I mean, we are talking about finished games, but it leads you on a little path, like a little tutorial to say, this is your spaceship, you know, these are your missions to go around and to do it. But that's a single player game. It's not a multiplayer game. Those are both single player games with a, I don't know, with an MMO. Can you think of an MMO where they've
MMOs, you tend to have a quest line
come.
which will tell you, which I get that.
Yeah,
but I suppose
I'm sure it'll come.
The problem is, it's kind of like we said before, isn't it? Is when, if you're selling these starter packages, and especially like with the free fly weekends, you're trying to draw people in. So it's easy to say they shouldn't make the tutorials, but then under the same breath, you're trying to draw these new people in with free flies and things like that. And to do that, you don't want to scare them away. So should you be doing tutorials, at least thinking about? I mean, maybe like you said, the new UI and the way you look at it, it'll be a bit more intuitive in how to do things. I don't know. It's for me, it's very difficult to see it from a new player's point of view, because we know, like you said, there's an element where it's an instinct for just anyone that's a gamer. You kind of get to know, right? Okay, there's a button, I've got to press it. There's a terminal, that's probably going to give me something. But then there's also the element where it's like, well, it's just not clear. Where's my ship? Why is it not available? Why am I not? I don't know really. I'm just saying, I feel like along with your streamlined thing, there's still, if you're a new player that doesn't have any idea, it's extremely, I'm just noticing that it's extremely confusing, and we're still getting people look confused as hell.
Do you think that at this stage, where we're so far into the game, in terms of this stage of the game development, it would make a lot of sense to try and kind of like have that in their mindset when they're building things? That's why I said, like the last week when I was saying about when the guys were talking about the UI, the radial and everything else he's talking about for the designers, I would love to talk to the designers to find out how they're thinking about the gamers. It'd be really cool. Like, and it's something I'm definitely going to try. I think I'm going to bring up when I go to CitizenCon and talk to them and talk to the designers and say, if I meet somebody who's doing the UI and everything else, I'm going to have that conversation and ask them and say, hey, look, just a quick question. When you're building this, are you thinking about this? I'm sure you are, but like, what are you doing? Because at the moment, the game is so heavy on information and so confusing. How are you going to take somebody who is new and take them through a very good process to try and help them, learn some really cool basics and stuff as they go through? But I mean, will it be just a mission, or will it be like they said to help? Remember they said they were going to have that little help text.
The
and
help
stuff
things keeps popping up, but it pops up and goes, and it's almost like it keeps constantly flashing with random stuff, and it feels like it doesn't flow. Or like the first time you come in, if you got the tutorial, that would be better, like straight in front of you, kind of. This is basic things. So I mean, I could be wrong. I think in the latest patch, maybe they changed it to relevant help tips come up. When it first came in, it was just random help tips. Like, it wasn't relevant to where you were. I
mean, I think we're way too early for too much, but I do. I'm not like talking about like a finished mission or like a tutorial. I'm talking about like it's like almost like an untangible kind of like, the game just feels not clunky, like fluid and little bits. But like I said, I think that will come as they flesh out more of the game. Like, we're all in, people talk about tier 0 and a lot of things. I do worry about the amount of tier 0 and the amount of tech debt that they have, Star Citizen, that's continuing to mount up. I'm sure they are as well. It is a concern of mine. And I've heard a few people talk about tech debt and stuff in a few other shows, and it has definitely on my radar of, we spoke about it, like, this perpetual cycle of creating new stuff, not finishing stuff, creates huge amounts of tech debt. And, the idea is that these tools will eat into this tech debt, but a lot of the time these tools don't really do, because every time I see the tools, they always talk about other tools have more problems, and then they have to fix those tools to fix tools to fix tools, and it becomes this massive. It feels like the mortgage system. It feels like how American mortgage, they kind of like take this debt and then they bundle it up into an OCD and then sell it to somebody else as something different to buy. It's kind of like a whatever that. It's not an OCD. It's like what's it called? The things in the mortgage. Americans will understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was in anyway, whatever. It's stuff they gambled on.
I know what you mean.
Lost heavily. But yeah, I worry about that. There's a few things I worry about with the game. Is the tech debt heavily I worry about. Will they ever be able to just to get through it? You know what I mean? Because it's growing substantially. Every time they delay something, they just kind of keep adding and something else in. Like now we've got interdiction, and then we'll get something else, and whatever else.
And then we've got caves that need to be fleshed out, and then
I've got caves, and then it's like, that was it. I put it in my. Did I put it? Hang on, let me get it because it was twerk. Not twerk. So it was Mike, Salty Mike, and I put it in our Asylum admin thing. I think.
Yeah, I know. Cave thing.
And it was okay. So he basically stated, he said, like I am with him on this one. I think the caves will ultimately be boredom of repetition. They will be maybe good eventually in the long run. They'll be fun for a bit. But like many things, it's just a new environment. Eventually, unless the mining is really profitable, there is a risk of it being a little boring after a while. But again, you could say sandbox, you can make it fun. But he says, my view straight off the bat is CRG has so much to do with the iterations delay heavily further advancements. We need a tier 1 in every game mechanics before we go off doing vast iterations on just one gameplay mechanic for an MMO. It says, basically he was saying like they'll be able to do more once they get the iterations and stuff, and I was just like, my worry is it's just too much. Do you know what I mean? It's like, can they realistically do that? Will they be able to? And he's saying like in a year's time they'll be able to, Ks will be better. It's like Ks will be better, it'll be low. But I'm like, well, if you actually look at it, a lot of the stuff that they implement in tier 1 they haven't come back to. A lot of things they put in the game they don't come back to for a long time, more than 1 year.
We've had
and it's still
something
broken.
very similar. It's like it's FOIP is a loose thing on that, but it's like the way it's on the roadmap, it's being, and we're all waiting for it, and also it's like, okay, it's here, and then they add it, and then it tends to get broken or something's broken from it, and then the next little patch it gets removed, and it's like almost sneakily removed, and then you don't hear from it again. It's like, hang on, where happened to that feature that we all waited for, and then they took out, and then it doesn't come back in again? Or it comes back in much later. Like you said, it doesn't get touched. They're not going back. It's just like, well, okay, it's in. Let's move on to the next one, even if it's buggy or it's not working, that sort of thing. I think that happens, I would say not a lot, but it definitely seems to be there where we get things, it sort of puts in and then, like, okay, if it's working, it's working. If it's bugged, we kind of just hold it to one side or something.
Yeah. Sorry. Technospoon just like he doesn't like the word tech debt. I don't know. I just said something. I'm trying to think of a word for it.
Or as couple sentences. He's like, it's not tech debt.
I don't know.
Tell me something.
Tell me how you would describe what I'm describing in another way. I would be fascinated to know.
Featured it.
But I do. But I do have that worry though, Miz. Like, I know you've answered it, but I do have that. Like, I do think that people get their hopes up that the like the Dark Law, bless him, with his tweet out the other day, like, my ship's still broken. It's like people get their hopes up. And the community people are responsible a little bit because they do say things like, oh, next year it'll be great, it'll be fixed. So people hold on to that in their heads and heart. They maybe, if they're foolish, they'll hold on to that, maybe next year will be better. And then they go, why isn't caves being fixed? Or why haven't they added anything to caves?
Well, that's what I mean. It's like they add the ship
because
and then it doesn't work. It's kind of like the Merlin and the Connie, and it's the ship's in, it's done. There you go. The ship's in, it's done. We can't get the Merlin to come out of it, so we've left it and we move on to the next thing. And it's like, you've got your ship. It's got a bug. I mean, the Aurora was killing me over and over again for a very long time before they did any form of fixing that. And there's lots of that. It's just, to their point of view, it's like it's in game now. If it's buggy and it's not working, well, that's tough. As long as it's not breaking their servers, And then obviously we had that thing recently with the guns going through the shields. and blowing up ships instantly. Like you said, probably because it was a bit of an embarrassment to Star Citizen themselves when game magazines and stuff are looking at this capital-sized ship that's being blown up by a dragonfly. They fixed it quickly. And probably because it could have been trolled far too easily by just loads of people with dragonflies shooting these big 890 jumps, which are supposed to be showing off. So
lots of things. People wouldn't bring out their 890s because they're probably getting blown up by dragonflies. They're getting frustrated, so then they don't get the information that they need. You know what I mean? That's the other thing is people forget. It's like they play PTU or whatever, and then I'm guilty of this. I know this. I'll play the game and I'll want to do something in the PTU, but Star Citizen guys, they want me to focus on another part of the game, so they'll make that part of the game a priority by maybe tweaking a few things and adjusting a few things so that I will have to play that to enjoy it. You know, so I'm sure when combat is good and improved or whatever, they'll change it so combat maybe, you know, want us to focus on that, and Arena Commander being one of them. You know, I think they've assigned a team, combat team or whatever. From what I understand, they said there's a combat team now, a new combat team. This is obviously not the same combat team that was working on Star Marine prior. This is an all new combat team. I would love to know the credentials. CIG, please let us know. I'm curious to know what the credentials of this combat team are. I'm sure it's amazing, but I would be curious to know how many people are on this team. What are their focus? That's what I want to know. I'm curious. Did they have a fight? Did they have to do like, you know, did they Chris Roberts break a pool cue and say we're having tryouts?
Well, I want to see your combat versus your combat go, and the winners get to design combat in the game.
Yeah, because I'm going to be honest. I've seen some of their combat in some of the videos, and it's concerning. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. So is the combat team outside of? Have they got community people on board? You know what I mean? That's the other thing, because that'd be kind of cool to know that. Hey, we've recruited a couple people from the community who we feel, you know, provide valid information. Because, like I said last week, the community has done an amazing job, especially the combat community, of giving tons of information back to CIG, tons of information, and some of it really good. Like some of the guys' stuff is incredible amount of detail because they're passionate about it. So hopefully, maybe they'll be involved. I hope so. Maybe they can't say anything because it's NDA, but it would be nice to know more. And this team is doing the FPS because they saw a leak. So I think we got a leak of people think it's Lear, right? That's the ghost. People think it's Lear 2. This is supposedly the map for Star Marine. I don't know if this is a leak or if this. I don't think it's a leak. This is an official picture, isn't it?
I can't remember.
I can't. I don't know if this is a leak. Is it a leak, guys in chat? The Lear stuff. I don't think so because like Mac had it on his YouTube video.
News thing, wasn't it in the news?
I think it's official. I don't know whatever it's. I just don't want to put it out there if it's not official and it's a leak because like you don't know these days. Later on the planet Citizen. From Citizen, go no. Oh yeah. From with the sandworm and stuff would be. I mean, I want to see the sandworms. I don't actually care for another dust bowl of a planet. I'm going to be honest. Okay, like it's just another. I mean, if the sand's working and the weather storm is in and everything is like that, then it'll be pretty cool. But I've seen enough kind of rocky, you know. Maybe if it's less rocks and just sand, that would be kind of cool because then you can kind of go over it more without bumping into things. That'd be pretty cool. But it's looks cool. I mean, you know, a bit of trees.
It does, but the thing is, it's a Star Marine map.
It's a Star Marine map.
So it's
yeah.
So it's like it's not the world. It's not the planet. It's nice for what it is, but it's not one we're going to be landing on tomorrow when it comes out, type of thing. It's just a map.
People were speculating it was, and I was like, well, couldn't it be just Hurston?
No, I think there was something written there. It was based on.
Oh, it definitely was Lear.
Yeah.
Oh, it was based on Lear too. Okay. All right. So they basically, there you go. So a team has actually. Yeah, and then I saw the comments, so I'm not even going to finish the sentence because I can't be bothered. The actual the trees. A lot of people have commented in chat on Reddit and stuff about the trees. They reckon it's not very good versus the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean the bark looks. Yeah.
And I was kind of like, well, it's Star Marine, and I'm not really paying too much attention to the surroundings in Star Marine. Do you know what I mean? I was kind of like, that's my first kind of like counter to that. Is like,
Yeah.
I'm just running around shooting things in Star Marine. I don't really not realistically looking at trees and going, oh wow, the trees are really pretty when I get a shotgun to the face. It's like,
No, that's what you are looking at when you're laying there dead on the floor. This is
yeah,
pretty
that's
bad.
so pretty. The immersion, the immersion. So I'm kind of like. I think people are looking at it more because they're like, "Oh, cool, new planet. We can see all the trees and like the
it
foliage
was just the
and
excitement of actually seeing some
habitat
foliage on a new tree, and a new
Yeah.
planet.
and a new map for Star Marine, which is like, what do people think? Do you think is that a good thing, much needed thing? Are we happy about this? What does chat think?
A
I'd be
new
curious
map
to know.
you mean for Star Marine?
And YouTube. Yeah, like, is that something that we think should be a priority? A new map for Star Marine? Is that something that we really need? I mean, if you play Star Marine, it is, but
I'm guessing
seems pretty dead to me.
it's just a different team that's working on it, so therefore put it in.
It's ready.
Like you said, Star Marine seems to be pretty dead, and I think that's down to probably more the mechanic of it, or people just don't seem to want to play it. I don't know actually, because I haven't touched Star Marine for a while. So when I last touched Star Marine, it was just a mess of bugs and things not working and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's why people aren't doing it, or whether it's just because people stopped from that and then no one really went in to play it. But it's, like you said, I mean, the reality is you've played Call of Duty. And then you said when you're comparing that to Star Marine, it's like, well, why would I come and play Star Marine? Really,
it would be the worst thing you could probably do is if you're a big COD fan or person fan, is a brand new game out for those type of games, and then you kind of like go, oh, you see Star Citizen for whatever reason, you just no. You just be like, wow.
Yeah, there's some bits in it that you go, I think it's one of those, you'd go no now. You just go back to COD, but you'd go, there's some cool bits, like the zero-G stuff aspect is pretty cool. And, there's some bits in it that you kind of go, yeah, maybe in the future. But it's in terms of like smoothness and just
I think
the
most
way
people wanted that
Endor
game 0G. If you're going to have anything, that's the one that should have probably been put in rather than Star Marine.
Yeah, there's a few things they could have done, but
I just feel, I don't know, like I've always felt like if they always talk about like how Star Marine's meant to be kind of a test bed for like weapons and animations and like parts that will then ultimately go into the persistent universe. It's not like that's always been like one of the ways they described it.
Because it was meant to be before we had FPS in the persistent. Like there was the Arena Commander module, then there was meant to be Star Marine module before the PU, and then I think what Chris thought was, once the PU come in, he was like, there's no point to either of these at the moment. I'm not saying that they wouldn't be put in later, but he's like, if you want an FPS, go and play on the PU and do it. If you want to fight and dogfight, go in the PU and do it. I think there was the big chunk of time where they abandoned those two because that's not what they wanted. Or as Chris's opinion was, go and do it on the PU. The guns are there, the people are there. Why on earth are you going to a little arena to do it when you can go and do it in the PU? But obviously, especially now with the more planets and everything, the more spread it is. I don't know, there's a fair amount of people. Well, if you go to an organised event like Rex and people like that are doing, then you can get big groups and big FPS games going. Yeah. But if you're just going as an individual, there's a lot less. Like when we had Security Post-Career, it worked. People were going there. There was often FPS combat. If that's what it was like, you go there for your FPS combat. You went to Tessa if you wanted to do your missions, and then you went somewhere else to do your in between the two to do space combat, basically. Obviously, the more that the space is expanded, the more filtered out people get. This is what's happening, and the gameplay is getting less and less, or at least the interaction with other people is getting less and less. And now the only interaction you see with other people is when you're getting these big group meetups done by content creators, basically, who are or orgs who are bringing these people together.
Yeah.
I've always thought that they should have done more of like a kind of a Metal Gear Solid type of thing with it, like that in terms of like the way they do the training room. Like it's just like really kind of like this cool room where it's like a VR type of thing where they have like the rooms are kind of like blocky, and then you have your fully rendered characters. Everything else is correct, but the environment is not actually important. You know what I mean? It's just it's learning and training and practicing, like hurdling, and they just literally kept it like that. And then you could kind of like set up like,
it's a
really cool combat.
practice training thing rather than
And then that way you are learning your weapons. It's really focusing on the weapons, the animations, and you're seeing how all that kind of like works. They don't necessarily need to have, add like the glass. And if they really wanted to bring in the glass in, then they could render in just the glass section, you know what I mean? And just have the glass rendered into the scene, into the planet, into the, and just kind of like simplify it down for themselves. So they're just focusing on just the kind of the combat and just kind of like, make it kind of look like a kind of Tron-esque type of kind of environment. And then you could fully render you out. And then they could work on animations like the zero G'ing, and they could play with it then, drop things in, take things out, really kind of use it less as Star Marine and more as just a virtual test bed. Like I would say, in my opinion, I think Star Marine is I'm going to be controversial here, but I would get rid of it. I don't think it's needed.
I don't think it's that controversial. I remember before it was out, which was funny because people were begging for it. It was like, we want it, and then it come out, and then it lasted a couple of weeks, and then there was like, no, we don't want it. It literally died so quickly when they brought that out. That's one of the biggest features I remember demanding before it was out, and then it disappeared. It was like the want for it was like, why did we all want this? I can't remember.
Yeah, I would just use it as like a VR, like a testy thing. I wouldn't make it like I just feel like it's like they're building another game in a game, and it's just like, why? You're just making so much more. Feels like they're making just so much more potential work for a team. I know they're hiring a team, and the team's doing it. So
the only thing I can potentially think of is those maps that they've built could be locations somewhere eventually. So the place you're fighting around could be an office block on one of the planets or something like that. They could reuse that environment and move it. I suppose it's also made. We don't know, are they using it as a test bed for environments? Like if we're gonna have FPS fighting on streets or in a little village or a town or something, how practice are we going to have these things that block the way, see through?
That's what I'm saying, but white box it though. Just white box it up. Just white box up it. I'm sure it'll be still just as much fun. I just think that you don't need to have it into fidelity realism. I honestly feel they could, if they focus less on that and focus on the way it feels, smoothness, all the kind of get rid of the clunky animations, focus more on how you feel when you're playing the character, aiming, speed of changing ammunitions, all of those things, focus on all of that player experience and less about the way it fucking looks. I think you'd have a better Star Marine game.
Well, I think that's FPS game. Kind of a bit like that on most of the game. We do seem to be getting fidelity over functionality. Maybe getting the functions working first, and then it's like like swapping all the components out of your ship and everything. Why not just let it happen on a basic form without all the animations, without it all looking cool? It's like we can't have that functionality because they haven't put in at the moment it's just textures on those things. Or we need to change that for a thing. Maybe the gameplay should be in before worrying about getting it all textured and animating it and making it look pretty. Like you said, because then if you waste all your time making something look pretty and then work out that actually it's not a very good mechanic or this doesn't kind of work, then you've wasted all that time texturing it and rendering it and making it, and then you might take it out. So,
I mean, again, it's like you're saying, it depends. I don't know how it works. So maybe, again, this is something for YouTube, for people in chat. Like if you have, like you said, taking assets from the environment team, you know what I mean? So are these people, like I know like Sean Newman, for example, he used to work there. Like he was hired as an environment person specifically for Star Marine. He was building maps specifically for Star Marine. So when they talk about a combat team, they have got a bunch of guys whose skill set is environment building, and they're building it just for Star Marine. And I mean, he went on to do other things and do his own thing. But I just feel like, why waste your time? Why not, like you said, why not have them working on the persistent universe?
Because I think eventually they want
more of a resource.
Star Marine to be a thing. Like they want it to be.
But what?
So like when you're on your ship.
What is it?
Well, no, it's meant to be
what do they want it to be?
I think they want it to eventually be an arena, almost like. Well, they did talk about a long time ago about having like esports and stuff. A
game in a game.
Yeah, they basically want it a game in a game. So they want to be. So if you're on your ship, you can get in your pod. Which is what used to be there, which they took out your pod, and then you can go and play Star Marine while you're on there. Especially don't forget. Well,
Big
don't forget though
too
that
much,
when
man.
but maybe and maybe not, because when the game's more live or closer to development end, you've only got, like we talked about this the other day when we was playing Borderlands or something, like you've got one life, or technically one life.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to risk that by going around and just shooting everybody constantly, but you want to have a little bit of FPS action, you can go in these arenas, these virtual worlds, to do your FPS part. Doesn't mean you have to go and do it on the real world, on real people. I don't know why I'm saying real world. You know what I mean? Don't do it on real world. In the PU, and like, because your life's more valuable. At the moment, it's not, right? So that it's easy to go and shoot someone at, say, like Jump Town and that sort of stuff. Whereas when your life, you see in Rex and whatever doing all these big battles, like if your life meant something and you literally lose your progression, would you want to go and do a 50 versus 50 or a 25 versus 25 battle, like all the time?
But again, like, I ignore that. I don't think permadeath's going to be a thing, chat. Again, controversial. I think the game is not going to allow it. I think, and if it is, it's going to be so unimportant. I just don't think permadeath is right. I don't. But again, you just said it with Rexilla and all these other games. These guys are building more engaging play where they're getting 50 people coming in and getting people queuing up. Many more who want to desperately join Rex and Zilla Corp and Detox and all the rest of it, and all these other orgs from France, whatever. There are more people doing that than they're doing Arena Commander. Is what I'm saying. Like, doing Star Marine, okay? There are more people playing that than they want to play. They could easily jump into Star Marine. Rex could easily jump into Star Marine and play and go, hey guys, we'll all jump in and we'll play this. They're not, because one, there are other games out there doing it way better than Star Citizen. So I look at it and go, focus on what's good about your game and unique about your game. And what's unique about your game is exactly what these people, content creators, are doing. Help them help you. That's the way I look at it. Focus on building that more and making that better. Focus on your mechanics, focus on the way the guns work, focus on the animation smooth, focus on group combating, ability to get your friends together, the way that they do the mechanics for Rex to be able to get people to join in, focus on getting bigger servers, focus on all of those things. Get rid of Star Marine, in my opinion, and focus on that, and I think you'll be far more successful than trying to build another wasting resources on another side patch. That's the way I look at it, honestly. I just think they should focus on that. Is where people clearly are wanting to play right now and enjoying, not Star Marine. And I don't honestly believe a map is the answer. I think people play the map for a bit and then they will go away and be more interested in playing combat in the caves.
I don't think it'll last, that's for sure. No, I do agree with you. And it's a bit like what we were talking about before, though. It's like feature creeping. Not feature creeping, but it's like, we want this bit of the market, and we want this bit of the market, and we want this bit of the market. It's like trying to get a little bit too much of everything. Okay, Viking, you're going to be on your own, mate.
Yeah, you go play on your own. I'll join you. We can play against each other. Wait for the match to start. It'll be grayed out for 20 minutes until it actually is allowed to start. I mean, that's just my view. At the end of the day, I think there's been some great comments, by the way, chat. I've been reading them. I'm looking for. There's some great comments. If you feel like your comment wasn't, like I say, we have YouTube. It'll be pumping up on YouTube. If you want to kind of like throw it in there again for us to read again, I'm trying to pick up some of this chat's going like crazy, which is fantastic. I love seeing it. It's great, guys. I really appreciate the chat, but it is hard sometimes to keep up with it. There's some great views though. Love the contrasting views. Love it. I love watching it, reading it. It's great. Some people, and I agree with some of them, and I go, yeah, you no idea. And then some of it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's a really good counter.
Most of it's everyone telling us that we've got no idea. But
no, we totally don't have an idea.
I mean, on the Star Marine thing, like, there's an element. Yes, we would want the main game kind of done first, and you do feel like I definitely don't think that there's not a place for Star Marine. I think I think there is a place for it. Do we need it now when we could get the other mechanics in game and make the PU great again? I mean, we know that half the options. That was a joke, by the way. We know half the options are that they're restricted with the PU because of the amount of people they can have on there, right? So we can't keep adding to it. But like you're saying, Star Marine's dead because it's not as good, and there's other. I knew that was coming. Because there's other games out there that are better. But their idea is if they make it great, then you don't need to go and play these other games. I mean, that's their hope. They want. Jeez. They want to make Star Citizen good enough that you do want to play it. That's the point. They're not thinking, oh yeah, our Star Marine is crap, so go and play something else. They want their Star Marine to be brilliant so that you do log in to go and play it. That's the aim, right? Whether they should be doing that before making the game good, that's a different story.
I don't know.
I actually
all I can
talk
say
about
is
red hats. I'm sure we've got a sale on this week. Asylum red hats, go and get them. Make the PU great again.
Make PU. Oh god, that would be funny. Actually, that reminds me, chat. I have been lazy. I haven't designed any new gear. I need to design some new gear, so I will. I will design. Yeah, we've got the t-shirts.
They was on offer the other day. I didn't even realise.
I know. I could do with like a couple more tees actually. I got to design some new ones for everyone in the team and stuff. I got a couple ideas. I just need to be free to do it, and have the inkling of wanting to do it. Because when I'm free, I just want to play computer games. Because there's so many good ones at the moment.
Stop playing games, son.
Borderlands.
Stop when your parents stop playing games.
We've still got to finish Revenant. There's so many good games. Right, sorry.
We've got a couple of questions, so let's go through some of these because we're asking people to fill out the form. So the first one is from Erebus again, Kingsley. I'm just going to say Kingsley because I can actually say that without getting it wrong.
Isn't it Erebus? Isn't it Erebus?
I don't know. But the question, I'm not 100% sure what he means at the start, but he says, he's talking about mining. Do you think we will just get to mine and sell them? Or do you think there will be more game? Oh, okay, now I get what he means. Or do you think we're just going to get to mine and sell it? Or do you think there'll be more gameplay loops related to it? I would have liked to have seen CIG add more than just tech to mine, but actually think of how to implement it as fun gameplay related to it. As an example, have several asteroids large as Grim Hex, where large amounts of the most valuable FPS minables can be found. I think it would create like another jump town point. So I think the first part of it is he's saying, if we, I suppose one thing he's meaning is like, if we mine it, do we just sell it, or can we use it for a mission? Can a certain dealer want jewels rather than money? So you could go and take it and say, well, this barman wants precious rocks for his wife. I'm just thinking on my feet. Or something like that, so as a different reason other than just selling it.
I think it would be great if they did do like a jump town in the sense that the kind of the rare jewels were in one space all the time, and everyone could have to go. Like if they created like a one asteroid that was super rich in resources, and everyone went there to mine it, and you had a jump town scenario.
I think that would be cool. That would be really cool. I think you're giving them too much credit if you think that they've thought about it like that. I don't think they have.
I mean, they even described it, didn't they, as it just being a dumbed down version of the prospector mining. So it's not like there's been a huge amount of thought in the actual mining with a hand laser bit either, I think.
No, I think there has been a little bit of thought, maybe not a huge amount, but there's definitely been some thought because they've thought the way they've done the.
We got the video. Why don't you bring up the ICS? We got the video from ripped off of Mac or Board Game or one of those guys. We ripped off one of their videos because they do a great job of taking all the information and then putting it into one video for us, which is fantastic of them. Thank you so much, by the way. We really appreciate. If you don't know Board Gamer and Ryan, see my brothers Ryan, go check them out. I think you do. They're way bigger than we are.
Give them too much credit. Yeah, I mean, at the moment it's like tier 1, obviously. That's what I mean by not thinking about it. Not that they didn't think about it. It's like they didn't want to overcomplicate the mining, and so it's basically saying it's similar to the prospector mining, but easier. Taking some of the mechanics
but it's got
from
some thought still.
Yeah, I didn't say there was no thought.
I reckon. No. What you said it was. I think it will be good. I think I actually might be able to mine properly this time for a change without it blowing up in my face and killing me.
Yeah, that's what I mean by no thought. They just made it simple so people like you don't have to read anything, and you literally press a button, and when it gets too hot, you stop pressing the button.
But it's great though because a lot of people. There was a great. Someone put it on the YouTube. Like I go through and read a lot of stuff, which is crazy for me, but I did actually read it, and somebody, let me just see if I got it right here. Somebody did, like a lot of people, like again, like Sorry Mike was talking about how, if you looked at it at face value, the numbers didn't seem to show that when you mine, you make a lot of money. but you do. If you actually look carefully, he sold 2 Hadi Knights for 104 AUEC, and the capacity appears to be 100 rocks for each of the 8 sections, making a total capacity of 800 rocks, with a max value of 40,000 AUEC per trip. Assuming this is the most expensive material. Given that you can transfer rocks to a box and load up boxes in a small cargo ship, if you find the right spot, could make a lot of money. So to say that you won't make much money is
the 800
not
rocks. So
true.
this is what we kind of talked a little bit about last week because we didn't have quite so much information. But I think the fact that you get 800, well, like you said, what it looks like 800 odd rocks. Able to pick up. That's quite good. That's good. That's nice to see rather than just like 8 rocks. Being able to drop the cargo into a box, it does make me wonder how many boxes we're going to be allowed. Are we being allowed to just shit out as many cargo boxes as we like? That would be interesting because that obviously affects how much you earn. But if you can earn good bits of money, that's a good way of doing it. Now, Evadius brings up a very good point. He says it's going to be fun hunting miners in caves. Now, what I would like to know is that could be so much fun. Can we kill people that are mining and nick their backpack?
We'll find out.
The problem is can you sell it?
Because then
sell their stuff.
That would be good fun
Nicking
gameplay.
is one thing,
Literally make some other poor
another.
little bastard go and spend all day mining with his little hand mine, and then you just come along and shoot them. And I mean, I suppose you could just nick the cargo in the back of their ship as well. Or when people come down to it, when people are sitting at the top with their ship and they bring the goods up and they drop it out as a box and put it in the back of their ship, and then they go back down to mine more. No, you let them go down to mine more, then you go and grab the box out the back of their ship and put it in your ship, and then you wait for them to come up, do the next box, and you just keep taking them out.
You just wait for them to load up their ship and then you kill them before, and then you take the stuff. And then the question will be as well is there's a few things like will it be easier to, if you're a good sniper, for example, you just sit there waiting for them, snipe them, bang, dead, then steal their stuff. Or, do you blow up their spaceship as they're taking off, for example, and then the boxes fall out the back, because that supposedly that is a thing, I believe. You can boxes, so maybe you'll be able to then, salvage the boxes from the destroyed ship. So that might be an easier way to do it. No, they're definitely going to be interesting.
The fun
very
gunplay
interesting to see.
As the hunter will be, when is their last box?
Yeah,
do I snipe
there'll be
them
a
now
lot of
or
cryers.
later?
If it's easy, and if for example, if the spawn locations become known, and if you do have your jump town scenarios, then you'll literally just have it'll be spiders or fighting each other. It'll be like a spider web, and it'll be the spiders fighting each other for who kills the next person to try and get the loot. Do you know what I mean? There'll be one poor bugger mining, and then everybody's fighting.
Fighting outside. Yeah.
You come out and there'll be just dead bodies everywhere. One guy covered in blood,
like a Kill Bill scene. You just walk out with your box, going to put your last box, and you just look around and literally everybody is dead. They've all killed each other. It's just okay.
That would be awesome, actually.
And then you just fly off, leaving the pile of bodies.
I mean, if you think about the way I was looking at this thing, I was thinking if they make these caves kind of random and not in a particular place, then that won't really happen because the maps are so big. I just jump to a location and go, okay, I'm just going to stick my ship into whatever for 10, 20 minutes in that direction, and then just randomly that direction, and then after 5 minutes, 6 minutes or whatever, maybe turn and go another direction a little bit, and then I'll stop here and then I'll scan. And I'll look around and be like, oh look, there's a cave there, and then I go down to that. What are the chances realistically that anyone's going to find you?
It depends on the.
I would say
like
next to
now,
none.
high, later on, maybe next to. I don't know though, because these people seem to find me no matter where I've gone. You could sit on a random asteroid and go, they're not going to find me here, and then the bastards find you. It's
No,
I mean, I don't think there's meant to be
honestly,
many caves
yeah.
to start off with, but I know what you mean in the long run potentially. At the start, I think there's only 5 caves or something. They said they were going to implement. I can't remember.
5 caves.
Or 5.
I know
five
someone's
per
already
planet
found
or
them.
something. I'm not sure.
5 caves per planet. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Everybody. Well, it's only 50 on server, that's only 10 per cave.
How many caves are there on planet Earth, guys? Let's go find out. 5 caves on planet Earth. Wow. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of very bored people trying to find people in this game.
So this was a good point. Is like, do you think there should be any form of assist in showing you where these caves are, or do you think it should be 100% you just got to come across them?
It'll be a dedicated spaceship designed to find caves. That will be the Mantis. Will be the ship that is a scanning capability of finding caves and finding people. Scanning for finding people inside or outside caves. It drops little drones that go in just like in Prometheus, that kind of go in and then scan.
Don't give them more ideas. Drone gameplay confirmed.
And finds. You can say, well, it'd be like in, like Star Wars. You send the little ships, they kind of fly across, and they kind of like find the information for you, and then
I trump your drones with squid ink.
I don't know, man. Like I to answer the short question, like he was just basically saying, do I think they've overthought it? No, I think it's going to be raw. Yeah, we do go on the tangent. We do that. It'll be raw, and I think you want more than I think you'll get. But, maybe in the long run, who knows? I want more from it as well. I do. I'd like caves to be a bit more this whole thing to be a bit better thought out, but until I get my hands on it, I know miserable G here is Ivakari. He probably has got his hands on it and can't tell us anything more.
On what?
But about you've been mining, aren't you, in 3.7?
I don't know what you're on about.
Yeah, there you go.
There's mining.
Moving on. Yeah, let's move on.
Son of a bitch.
Didn't know. There's
You
mining.
can't tell us. You can't tell us, chat, if it's good.
Cave finding ship. Only $599. Delivered direct to your door.
It's so true. It's just so true. Everything in the game. You need a spaceship to wipe your ass? We have that spaceship for you. Only £12. 99. Oh, no, it's too cheap. Too cheap for wiping ass. You get the gold version.
Right, was there anything on the document that you wanted to go, or should I do these questions?
We've got... There was the caves. We just talked about the caves, which I think is pretty good. The soapbox. Oh yeah, that was it. That was a very quick one. This was the one. This is like a little soapbox. Now, I agree with this one. This is to do with the caterpillar, and this is to do with the caterpillar being launched to buy part of if you did the pirate swarm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you complete this pirate swarm, you get access to buy the pirate version of the the caterpillar. The caterpillar you can't normally buy unless you buy it part of the loot and like some sort of pack, which is very expensive. And the caterpillar is not cheap in itself anyway. But say for example, you've been waiting to CCU to it, or you're into the cargo running, and at the end of the day, at the moment, the caterpillar makes you a lot of money. It's a good ship. It's quite got good shields. I see a lot of people who do the whole cargoing in the game. They tend to all fly, and I've seen HC Vertigo and a lot of them. They fly the caterpillar. Not to mention, it's just a really cool ship. I think it's one of the nicest ships in game, inside and outside. Really cool. Always things to do and look at in that ship. Really nice. Anyway, so a lot of people want it, but this person in Reddit said something. Now I've done the pirate swarm, so it's okay, but I don't know if it remembers or it resets if you've done it per patch, and you have to do it every patch. But he basically says how to finish pirate swarm with all these bugs, and he basically says I'm so frustrated of trying to just get this get the pirate skin and get the cat and stuff, when AC is so broken, and it did make me wonder, is it really a smart thing of CIG to have you have to complete something that's so broken in the game to buy something that's very expensive? You're not talking the skin, I don't know if the skin's cheap, but the actual ship itself is quite expensive, and you're asking people to go through a lot of pain. He said every attempt is around 30 to 50 minutes, and he said it was breaking old ships, bugs, ships not working. He said it's really frustrating and shows that they are not looking after the AC anymore, which we all know anyway, but it's more deeper than that. I think it's actually really bad on CIG to make you very unprofessional. Anyway, sorry.
It's kind of like they did the same thing with the Glaive, right? The alien ship. Yeah. You could only do that if you did Vandal Swarm. Now, that's great in theory, But you're talking about you're only selling a ship to people that manage to complete a game mode that at the end of the day a lot of stuff is bugged. And there was a same thing happened there. People attempted Vandal Swarm, it would bug out, or the latest boss did it. I think I remember doing it and it completely lost the fact that I killed and finished Vandal Swarm, so I couldn't buy the ship at the time. And then they do the limited and there's different ways of potentially doing it. I suppose if they kept it constantly available once you finish Vandal Swarm or Pirate Swarm, and then it's not limited, it's just like it's always there once you finish it. That would be one option to get around it being bugged, because maybe eventually you could find someone to help you do it and it not be bugged. Or it's just, it does seem a little off. It's not like if you're struggling to get it, I agree. It seems a bit unfair, because if it's something you really want, I mean, you can buy all these other things in game. It's always on there for a limited amount of time, and yet maybe it's the one that you really want. You can't get because of the bugs and stuff. Like they're not in a situation where they've got a crystal clear game that's working. Like in a normal released game, those sort of stuff happens. But in a beta, in an alpha where things don't work, it is a little bit punishing for some people.
They want the caterpillar. I don't necessarily know if they want to have the pirate skin. Some people do. This person obviously wanted the pirate skin, but some people might because it's a cooler version of the pirate skin or whatever. And I think it's a new pirate skin actually.
I don't think
but some people just want the ship. They just want the ship, and they can't get access to it. That's the only way to get access to it.
But when it first come out, you could buy it. That's no different to any ship that's no longer on sale at the moment. You can't just say, "Oh, don't lock it behind that," because there's loads of ships that are not for sale anymore. Like the Banu Merchantman and things like that. So I don't agree with that. I agree if you wanted to get it from the pirate version, but I don't agree with I want it another way because I can't get it that way.
Yeah, I do think. No, but the way I look at it is just like you're making people play a game mechanic to get access to a ship because they can't get it any other way. Who are ultimately predominantly going to be more. It's a cargo ship. You know what I mean? It's not a combat ship. It's a cargo ship. So people have to then go through waves of combat to get access to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like me having to do, like, if I had to get access to a really great gun and I had to spend an hour doing mining, like a rock. Do you know what I mean? I could feel the frustration for people who want to do cargo running and they want a cargo thing and they have to go do the one thing that they really don't want to do in the game, which is combat. You know what I mean? Wave after wave after broken combat.
Yeah, but
I can see how that would be.
Like I said, it's meant to be for the pirate version. It's not. This is just the way it is.
I know, but
I agree with it being bad for the broken reason. No, I know, but that's because people want something that's not on sale at the moment. You just wait for. All they got to do is wait for November, and then they can buy it when the fucking anniversary sale comes on. So,
but you know that people can't help themselves, and people might only have the access to the money now. In 6 months' time, they might not have that money.
Then they shouldn't be buying gift cards in game.
Well,
they should be saving their monies.
Not true. Some people have the ability now. You don't know what the future holds.
But if you have the ability now, do put it in a bank account and then it's saved, and then it will still be there in November. If you're gonna need it next week, then you should be spending it on the ship.
I was about to say, hang on. I was going to argue. Put it in a bank account. We're talking about people that spend hundreds of dollars on ships because they want to back the game, obviously the development, but still they're buying it for spaceships. So they're not necessarily I wouldn't give them my mortgage details, is what I'm saying.
All I'm saying is forget that part aside. I'm with Langdon. He's put it a better way than I did. Is if you want a pirate cat, you have to do pirate things, which is killing things in AC. The whole, if they want the caterpillar and trading ship,
they just want the caterpillar.
That's tough. That's like someone saying, I want the glaive. I want the Vandal glaive. Why can't I have that on sale? Why can't I find a way to? Can't you put that on a thing so I can unlock and have it? Well, why not? Of course it is.
It's not. It's because it's just ultimately a skin. They just want the caterpillar. They don't want the skin comes.
Okay,
part
well,
I'll
think of another ship that's. Yeah, but that's not what they're going
the glaive's
for.
not.
That's not what they're going for.
No, they are.
No,
because you can't get the caterpillar in any other way as a single standalone spaceship.
Any other way?
No, but I'm not. You're not right. This is a limited time sale, right? I'm not talking about it. This is a limited time sale at the moment where you can gain access to the caterpillar as a single ship, CC or whatever. Like you can get it on sale, and it becomes available and open to you as a CCU and all the rest of it, it becomes open. It's like just for a period of time, they've opened it up however they do. I don't know how they do it. So you can now get access to buy just the standalone Caterpillar and you get the skin with it, okay? So you cannot get the Caterpillar any other way other than in some ridiculously large pack, like a Drake pack or something like $1,500 or I don't know what it is. At the moment, yes, you're right. In the anniversary sale, whenever that comes up, the Caterpillar will become available on one of the days when they do a Drake day, and then at the end of it when they do all the ships for sale. You're absolutely correct. And then if they do like a January sale thing, yes, there'll be potentially that. But not everyone will wait, and not everyone wants to, and the access to buy it now. I did it with the Saber. I did it with the Saber comment came up, and other things come up, and they do these little things, and you got access to buy, that ship maybe when you couldn't get it before, and you just get it with a skin necessarily you don't like and stuff. It's more just the fact that it's more really. I think we're kind of losing the point. It's more to do with the fact that Arena Commander is heavily broken, and you're making it so that people who can only get access to this thing through a game
that's what I'm saying. I agree
silly.
on the not being able to get access to something through something because it's broken. I disagree on the other point, but that's okay. We'll agree to disagree.
That's fine. We'll leave it. We'll just leave it there. I think we'll be.
But,
no, there's no point because we'll talk about it another time. I'm sure when I watch the podcast back, I'll go. Yeah, okay, I see what you're trying to say. But I usually see after the fact, and I go, okay, I got you. I got what you're saying. Right. Anything else? I don't think there's anything else. I think you can ask the questions away.
Let's do these last few questions.
Else.
So Dirk,
just, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing.
Sorry, Dirk.
One very quick thing. Sorry, Dirk. Sorry, very, 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 very last thing was. Everyone always tells me about console games downgrading the graphics and stuff and the visuals of stuff. The Banu Defender, for me, I saw the leaked picture of it in the hangar of someone or something. I put it in the box. Now, I know it's a leak, so we don't have to show it, and I don't want to show it. I can talk about it. It's easy. But the quality of the pictures that I saw from concept and everything else, it looks quite plain, is the best way I would describe it. So from what I've seen, I'm hoping it's not. I'm just going to say I'm hoping it's not as bland looking as that because it's Alien, and I was expecting it to look a lot more organic-y. You know what I mean? The textures and stuff, and it just looks a little bit like metal, and it didn't look quite as organic as I thought. So I'm hoping that it's better in the flesh. We'll find out. But that was just a concern I had from the leaks. Like when I saw the leak, I was like, "Ooh, that looks really." A bit bland, in terms of the textures, especially as they talked about how, we saw Josh showing us all these amazing textures, and the concepts looked so different looking, the textures. So I was worried. And then PC Master Race is always telling me how great PCs are about textures and stuff, and I was like, they never downgrade it compared to consoles. We'll see. Maybe Miz wants to comment on the Defender. Yeah, maybe. We know shit. That's what we know. Exactly. You guys, it's so not fair. But I actually know I know the pain that you guys go through in Ivocati, and I definitely go through enough pain in PTU. I don't need to go through it in Ivocati, so I will leave you to your exclusive little circle jerk club, and have fun with all those bugs. Enjoy them. Because I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing it. But yeah, anyway, that was a concern. No, you don't know the pain. I don't know the pain. I know. I don't. You guys, I know you'd go through it. Okay, sorry. Question.
So Dirk asks, no mention of the Polaris on the roadmap. Reckon it will not appear in Squadron 42. He's just run off. I was asking you. That's literally a you question. No, I don't think so. I think it's just either it's not ready or that it's not something like they said before. Not everything they're working on is on the roadmap. Now they've pulled quite a few things off of the roadmap. I don't think it's any particular reason other than it might be that they don't want to put it in the PU. Maybe they want to get it done for Squadron, and they don't like there's some ships they don't want to let us have access to. I think. Squadron 14 doesn't exist. So yeah, who knows? They pull it from there. I don't think so. I think it's because they don't want it as a main focus, because they know that it's like some things if they just keep bouncing it because it's not ready yet, it doesn't look so good.
Well, I think they've still got the Carrack that needs to come in at some point. They've probably still got some other ships that they're going to try and sell us. You know what I mean? They've still got ships to sell us probably before the end of the year. And if those ships are following the being ready stage from Squadron 42, maybe they'll sell those to us to make money. The Polaris, I agree. I think it won't probably come in until a little bit later. It could be the first capital ship outside of the Carrack.
Could be a reason maybe they've replaced it with a different ship. I mean, that's possible. Like, you know, they didn't they say they did something like that with something else in Squadron 42? They were planning on using one ship, and then they thought, you know what, we've got a better version of this now. We're going to use this instead. I can't remember what it was, but I'm sure they swapped some ship out.
Maybe. So, the Redeemer.
Yeah.
They got a better version.
So
it's out of my price range. And for all those people who bought the Polaris, it's a torpedo boat for me. I'm hoping it comes in. I'd like it to come in just purely to deal with 890s and for them to start to figure out what they want to do with like that level of combat. You know what I mean? Those type of bigger ships, because actually that's like a next level. But the truth is, they still haven't figured out what they want to do with the smaller ships. You know what I mean? They still haven't even got that managed. So you start bringing in the bigger size ships, start throwing that into the mix. You know, I kind of go, well, then you need to hire more people to manage the balancing, because you've now just expanded again. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, poor guys who are trying to balance the smaller ships, get that working, figure out how that works up against up to an 890. And now you want to bring in a Polaris and a Javelin and oh my God, could you imagine? You know, the balancing that then has to happen with that as well. It's just, I honestly... What a lot of work they have to do. The guys must literally, I don't know how they sleep at night. I don't think they do. Like, how could you sleep knowing you've got to do all that? If my job was balancing, your job is to balance all of that combat.
Balancing is always the worst thing in any game, I think, half the time. So it's like, yeah. No, thank you.
I'd want a pay rise, that's for sure. I want to get paid some bucks if I'm balancing all of that.
We got another Squadron question, so I'll do that in a second because I think it's a bit of a bigger discussion. The next question we got is from someone that says, you know who, and it's from Madness. And it just says, so did you enjoy that Coulson admitted that hover mode sucked?
I loved it, yeah. It was great.
I predicted that. No, I love more is the fact that they renamed.
Well,
no, I never like. I honestly, I never. I know. I don't like to rub anyone's nose in it, and I didn't like the way he looked dejected. And I don't want anyone to be driven as part of a team to that place where they have to leave a company or whatever because they maybe make a mistake or maybe something. I'd never want that on anyone. And I think Coulson's. I would love to meet him. I think he's like a really decent dude, and he's trying his best. I just think with the hover mode. And the way that they've taken a step back and clearly looks like it's kind of rolled. Looks like it's rolled back. I know they say it's not, but the way that the ship looked like in that leak, where it's just tilting down, looks like it's back to kind of what it was. So until I get my hands on it, I don't know. I'm sure the Evocati people in here are screaming at the things, going,
"I can neither confirm nor deny.
It's nothing like
any
it.
changes.
You're not." So we'll see. But did I take joy in it? Not really. I didn't take joy in it. I'm glad. Not in that sense.
He's only going to take joy when it rolls back to 2.6. But he'll take joy.
I'll take real joy if the aim assist comes out. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I'll take that. Will be real joy. Not the hover mode is kind of like, I know that they'd eventually fixed it anyway, but the aim assist one is a big one for me because that's fundamentally speaks to the core of skill-based combat and skill-based gameplay. So get rid of that, CIG. Leave it in your turrets. Just leave it there.
Yeah,
that's all it needs to be. Just leave it. Stick it in the turrets and leave it with your NPCs. And that's it. Take it away from everybody else.
Okay, so the last question we've got is from Golden Gloves. Sorry for the wait, but there you go.
Sorry, buddy.
With the flight model still being iterated, how much of an impact do you think this has on Squadron 42's development and game balancing design? I'm curious how CIG will continue to tweak and balance the model in SC after Squadron 42 is released as a single-player experience. This is a
good question.
Good question, and one we've actually discussed a few times because the flight mechanic technically, when you think of Squadron 42 as a single-player game, now, like we said, when you first backed the game, it was a space game. Planets and things wasn't a thing. So it was predominantly to do with it being space. And so the flight mechanic is probably the most major part of the game. If you don't have a flight mechanic, you don't have a space game, do you? So it's got to be important. And then if they consider it fixed to actually release Squadron 42, then technically that has to be fixed. That means there's no more iteration in the PU. In my opinion, you can't change it in the PU once you've established it for Squadron. I don't know what you think. I
disagree completely on that. Completely disagree with you on that one. Yeah, totally do. And I've said this on the show with you. I've said this on the show with you before. I look at it like there's a couple ways you can kind of go at it. I think I agree with you. There's the way you were mentioning. But the other way I look at it is like the way I play single player games. And like, for example, God of War, and you have like God of War 1, 2, 3, 4, or Fallout 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, you do have a core part of the game that remains the same, like certain buttons like fly, up, down, punch, get your weapon, whatever. But I do think that they every time there's a new one, they add to it. So the next one, and sometimes they change, they don't overhaul, but they add to it. So for me, I think CIG needs to get to a place where they're very comfortable with the flight model, which I think they're getting to right now with the current one. Get to that place where it's like absolutely bashed in, nailed down, but it doesn't need to be perfect, because I think that they can continue to iterate on chapter 2, chapter 3 of the flight model for the single player games. And the persistent universe could eventually be completely different to Squadron. Eventually, it could have huge changes and improvements to it, because I think if you lock themselves in too hard to it being exactly the same in the Squadron and in the persistent universe, I think it's good in some ways, because then obviously then we go, yeah, this is the flight model on those basic parts. But I think it could stop them. It could delay them, is what I'm meaning. Like, if they're not happy with the PU, it could delay them too hard. And if they focus on making it fun and enjoyable in the single player game, then and it works, then cool, you know what I mean? Get the game, get that single player if it's working really well, but it doesn't quite work in an MMO. But I don't think it would be terrible.
What would be about the flight mechanic that would work in the single player and not work in the MMO? Before you said that, anyway.
That's a good question.
Hey, Vertigo, thank you so much for the raid. Really appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much, and welcome. Yeah, and thanks for the follow. We won't tell anyone you weren't following.
Big time streamer in the house. Woo! Hey, Vertigo. What's up, buddy? Long time no speak. I look forward to having you on the show again at some point.
Yes, I'm a big fan. Of course you are. With that imaginary tick that you've got there, it's big time. Just waiting. You just got to convince those bureaucrats at Twitch.
You'll get them. Now
that you're useful even without the boobs. That's all.
They'll figure it out. Just don't worry. You can always just, the boobs become eventually a thing if you want them to. When you're older, you have to fight against getting the boobs. It's one of those things.
Yeah,
I'm learning that now.
Make man boobs count too, right?
I think so. I think they do. So, 1 second, sorry.
No
Carry on.
So what I was saying with the flight model, I suppose, is I agree with what Madness is saying, that you do iterate and make things better. I suppose there's an element of how many episodes of Squadron are we going to get before the PU's completely finished? And then it's like, well, yeah, personally, I feel like I don't know what's different, what would be different from a single player flight mechanic to a multiplayer flight mechanic? Do you imagine that your ship should handle the same? They should use fuel the same. They should, they should operate the same. Like, you wouldn't imagine having huge drag on your ships in multiplayer, but in single player, all your ships are nimble and fly like they used to. So that's kind of what I think. It's like, I don't see why you would have that separation. So I get what Madness is saying, iterating and make it better. Totally agree with that. That if they can tweak it, and once the first one's released, they could maybe make the flight mechanics slightly better, but you don't want... Well, I suppose he did say not dramatic. I wasn't on about dramatic changes. You don't want dramatic changes, you don't want huge changes between a single-player flight mechanic. Like I said, you wouldn't want one where it's the ships fly completely differently. You don't think, oh, okay, so in the single player, all your thrusters act like unbelievable things that can take you up, down, and strafe, but in the multiplayer, you don't. Your ships have got a ton of weight and you can't move. That's how I see it, as though that linked that you wouldn't necessarily get a change. That's just my opinion, I suppose.
But you could, in theory, like, maybe, but things do change. You know what I mean? The way I look at the opposite is like things do change. You know, they could be like, as they already have done. You know, so for example, maybe right now they don't, but then maybe there's a new technology, or the way that they, you know, at the moment they don't have afterburners, for example, on smaller ships or nitro. And I've talked about it. Maybe in the single player game, they realize that maybe we need to add them to make it more interesting and more dynamic, and maybe they increase the thrusters more, so the thrusters feel more in the single player. But by the time then that game gets released and then they get to the second chapter, maybe they've added something better in the persistent universe, or maybe they've done something else, and then they add that into chapter 2. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think if they get, there's a balance. Do you know what I mean? That they're going to strike. They'll have to figure. At some point, they'll have to say. I don't want to lock them in too hard. You know what I mean? I just think.
I presume you're more talking. I was on about big differences. I think you're talking about little tweaks. I think, like you can't adjust the way you can. You can adjust it. You can make it go completely different.
Yeah.
But I think that would be weird. Like, because I mean, like the whole point is you kind of play. I mean, you can just do multiplayer if you want, but their journey is you play the Squadron 42. You play that single player. And then that ship then. Like, I think you unlock the ship at the end of it, and you then take that into your multiplayer game. Now, it would be really weird if you're playing it in single player, and then all of a sudden you go to multiplayer, and your ship just handles completely different. Because you just learnt a flight mechanic by playing. I mean, that was how I was going to plan on playing, doing the whole single player, then the multiplayer thing to get the story to go through. And it'd just be weird if you're. And like I said, they could do it, but I feel like that would be a bit weird and inconsistent. But predominantly it's how good the flight mechanic is, isn't it? You know, it's like how good they've got to release Squadron 42 with a good flight mechanic. And then if they've got a good flight mechanic in Squadron 42, why would they change it in the multiplayer?
They haven't shown great judgment, though, have they? Let's be honest, over the last few years in throwing the baby out with the bathwater when they do big sweeping changes. When they think something's ready, look at Gravlev. Gravlev is working fantastically well, and we think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Have you played this game, CIG? Have you seen the Noxes taking off and going into atmosphere? You know, for months they said that was the greatest thing. Hover mode, it's just a few tweaks away from working great. The videos of people blowing up all over the place. I sometimes wonder if they, judgment-wise, we need to. Item 2.0 is going to revolutionize things and make things better. Oh, we've destroyed combat. Ultimately, it's now not very good. You know, I do worry, about that.
But I
do
mean,
worry that they could throw things out.
But that's
because
why
they think
I'm
it's
thinking
better.
that
They think it's better, but it's not better.
Because, like, I think Hear More says a thing. Like, I don't really feel like relearning to fly. Now, you're the same thing. It's like when you thought 2.6 or whatever was good. Like, why change it?
Yeah.
Well, what about if you've got your Squadron 42 that was playing like 2.6 or whatever patch it was,
I'd be still playing Squadron 42 now.
And then all of a sudden your multiplayer went to 3.0, you'd be like, well, why have you changed my flight mechanic when it was working? Yeah, exactly. Which is why
I would play
I'm
Squadron 42 going,
they shouldn't do it.
Awesome.
That's why I'm saying it should be nailed down before bringing it out to the PU or to one or the other. It needs to be the same.
I'd have a little slice of memory that actually I can play, Miz. That's the beauty. I can't even play it anymore. I can't enjoy it. I can't share that enjoyment with anybody new. Any of you new backers out there. I can't share the joy that I had for over a year with an older flight model. So in a way, I kind of want the single player games, Miz, to be like that. So I could have those little moments, little gems, and say, this is what it was.
It may roll back. But what I'm saying is...
It's a classic.
Yes, that's it.
Yes, already.
Yes.
We've got
a whole new server of Star Citizen Classic.
Already.
I love it.
Star Citizen Classic. Oh, that would be so funny. It was like, mate, Modern Warfare's doing it with the Modern Warfare's pretty much back to Modern Warfare 2 with a few iterations. Let's bring back, roll out the old code is what I say, and see if anyone. Wouldn't it be embarrassing? It would be so embarrassing if they rolled out the old code and more people were in like Arena Commander and playing the combat side in that. That would tell you a lot. I don't think they would though, but I think the game's moved on.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Golden Glove. I think, like you said, the main point is how can you balance missions, and I think he means in Squadron when you don't have the right flight model yet.
Oh,
and I totally
okay.
agree
Yeah.
as well. It's
Sorry.
like until you've got that flight model now down to at least, like you said, you want it to be acceptable for Squadron. How are they doing this? How are they
That's a good point.
setting up
That's a really
these
good point.
space battles and who's coming against you? And it's the same way with the AI. Where while the AI is not behaving very well, how the hell are you setting, like, if Squadron's meant to be close, like, it just makes you wonder how close or how much development you can do within that game when you haven't got the fundamentals right, until those fundamentals are right. It makes it, you might be able to, I don't know.
I look at it like storyboarding. Okay, this would be my answer to this would be storyboarding. So like when Steven Spielberg does a film, he storyboards it, and he does it so beautifully storyboarded. And one of my friends that I went to study footwear design with, when I went around his flat to smoke something rather happy and joyous, when I was around his flat,
One
we
of
were
those
hanging
chocolate
out.
cigarettes,
Yeah, one of those chocolate cigarettes. He had like his father was in Indiana Jones. It was his family's an actor. His great grandfather was an actor and was in Indiana Jones film. I think he was the dude on the tank. He fights one of the guys, quite a fairly famous British actor. Anyway, I didn't know this at the time, and he had the flick book with a picture of him and stuff like that. We had a picture of him and Spielberg and his grandfather when he was a kid, and he has a original flip book of all the storyboarding. And it's amazing to look at. I always remember, through a cloud of whatever, looking at the storyboard, and it was almost like the pictures became alive, and it was almost, and I could instantly see the movie through the storyboarding. So in my way would be answer to this is, if they're really good, and if whoever's writing the missions are writing the storyboarding and really kind of creating, you could still do it without the mechanics there. So you could still create all of that gameplay, all of that storyboarding, so it's all beautifully, like the whole game is there. Like Chris talks about how he's played the game already. Maybe that's what he means, as well. It's like, I've played the game on the wall. You know what I mean? It's like, I know where all the missions are going. I know where all the stories are going. Yes, the mechanics aren't there, and I agree with you in terms of like, how can they get to the end result on time? But in terms of like, I still think if the storyboarding is solid,
Yeah,
then it's just a matter of time.
I'm not saying that they can't do. I 100% get what you're saying. The storyboard, because it's the same way as they've recorded all the dialogue already, so they know how the conversations are going and how the story is. But I suppose I mean more in terms of like, so we've seen that vertical slice where they go through the gas core, the core thing. Like, if you don't know how your ships are, I mean, yes, they can write the story for it, but if you don't know how your ships are handling, like especially like with that drag, like before you could have all these little things that you could fly big, and because your ship's nippy, you could jump up and down through these rocks and do much more maneuvering. Whereas if you add that drag to it, all of a sudden that ship could no longer do that. You go to fly through these little rocks, and then it's blowing up every 2 seconds. So you're gonna have to then rewrite that scene so that it works with that ship. That's what I kind of mean. So it's not.
It's like drifting now. If you have the heavy drifting, you can't really do the maneuvering. But you'll notice that the ship that is predominantly going to be used in Squadron 42 is one of the most agile ships at the moment in game, which is the Gladius, which I think says everything you need to know about that, answering that question. But I do think it's valid. I do think it's a valid point. If they make change, if we see changes. But I think, again, it stems to the changes that we see in the persistent universe are changes that we're seeing from Squadron 42's roadmap, because based on the roadmap, they are doing things a little bit ahead of the PU in a way in Squadron 42.
Totally, but that's what we mean by there being links, though. It's like you've got to get that mechanic now down, at least at some point. They've got to be a mechanic that they're happy with that's now down, because otherwise you can't. We will see it in the PU, but it'll be the now down mechanic from the Squadron, because you can't not have that. You can't then later change the flight mechanic and then go, well, we need to put that back into Squadron, because, like I said, say for example, you could stop on a dime before, but now you can't. Like, if you put a rock there and you're meant to stop your ship, but they change it and all of a sudden you can't, your ship's going to blow up. So there's there needs to be that thing. And then I imagine that if they're happy with it in Squadron, I mean, I could be wrong, but if they're happy with it in Squadron, then that would then pass through onto the PU, and that's what we're all going to get. And you shouldn't technically get much tweaking. I could be wrong, and I get what your point saying they might, but
Well, here's the next thing, because it could be a bit like, will this, because I think it's a really good dialogue conversation to come around this. Will it be like Pong? So we start off with Squadron 42 on the left, and the ball gets batted. So we're talking about gameplay mechanics. That gets batted to the persistent universe, which is on the right-hand side. They have to be linked, so the ball gets batted to that. And then, because there's a gap period between then they go into Squadron 42 Chapter 2, will the persistent universe be influencing Squadron 42 in any way if there's any changes? Or will it always be more like Space Invaders, where Squadron 42 then just shoots? You know what I mean? It's always coming from the left side. It's never going back from the right side.
Once it's wrapped up and released, I can't imagine it being influenced by other stuff. Because otherwise, my first playthrough of Squadron 42 could be completely different to someone that comes and does it 3 months down the line. And you don't generally, like in a normal single player, you don't generally do that, do you? My playthrough of if I go back and play Borderlands 1 now, it would be same as your playthrough that you played when it first released, right? They don't change it. So that's kind of, I imagine, what Squadron would be.
But I'm talking about Chapter 2. But I'm talking about Chapter 2, not Chapter 1. So they don't change back Chapter 1.
No, yeah,
I mean, Chapter 2 will be back. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Not Chapter 1.
Say you don't have hacking in Squadron 41, but then all of a sudden they get the mechanics right and you can do hacking, they will put it in... definitely put it in Chapter 2. I think that will pass back that way, definitely. But...
And will the feedback... What I mean is like, if there's feedback as we go... Because it's like, I'm just saying, will it... I'm just curious, like, as we go through the PU... Will there be feedback that will be coming back? You know, like, as we talk about when we play in the PU all the time, they talk about giving them feedback. That feedback is influencing the PU and Squadron 42 effectively, because that then will have, if you're saying they're linked, then that's got to go back that way to influencing Squadron 42. And then, you know what I mean? And it's like question of, then we go to Chapter 2, how much of that influencing between that period of time that's happening in the PU is then influencing Chapter 2? So then how much of Chapter 2 will change from Chapter 1? And then we get to Chapter 3, because then Chapter 2 will then, there may be stuff that the guys are doing themselves, obviously, as you wouldn't expect them to. They're not going to listen to everything we do. Yeah. They'll add their own bits, and then that will then influence then the persistent universe again. And then, you know, this kind of like almost like a crossing over as it goes up the path type of thing, or if it will always be just coming from Squadron 42, and then they kind of like lip service to us. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, whatever. They don't know what they're talking about. We already know because we've got a very established, guide of what we want to achieve.
Yeah,
we're the experts.
Do you know what I mean? I think with something, I think it would depend on the mechanic on what you're talking about. Like I said, like some things like the flight, I think it's dictated in what we give feedback. It's got to be. I think they're using us so that the flight feels right. That they then put that in the squadron. But it'd be like mechanics.
Chat's going like crazy.
I know.
Just look at the chat, like look at the chat.
Not argument, but a big discussion between the two reasons of whether it should be the same or not the same, which is fun.
You're awesome. I love this. Is why we love this. Is why this is on this show. Like what we do is we really do try to talk about a lot of topics of conversation, and really just kind of like open threads of dialogue, and just like and it's really interesting. I do go back and watch the videos and see the comments and stuff. So I really appreciate it. And like I said, dude, if you want to say something again, chuck it in on YouTube as well. I read everything. I read as much as I can during the week. Sorry, just because chat was just going, I'm just looking at it there like this. I always know because of big blocks of like paragraphs where people are trying to explain stuff, and I know how hard it is to sometimes get your point across.
If
you really have a burning,
to do it in chat, definitely, and I mean, even we're still differing slightly in opinion, but you're allowed to disagree and you're allowed to have different opinions as well. And just from my opinion if you're going back to the flight mechanic part of things, I feel like if I'm going to play the single player, if they want it to be a joint game, which is what they're doing, then I think that if the flight model should be the same when I play one and then move to the other. It just seems weird if your ship's handled completely different from one game to the other. Now it doesn't necessarily mean that will be the case, but they want to link the two, especially by saying your ship is then going to be taken into the PU. Like they want to link those two, so if they're linking them, then I think the flight mechanics have to be the same, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's not always simple though. I know it's like you guys say, it's like, oh, my answers are always simple and straightforward. They're not always that you think, because I always think sometimes my answers are simple and straightforward, and then I put them out there, and then 12 people come back, usually Miz and his friends come back and then completely destroy what I'm saying within about 5 seconds. No, but you know what I mean? It's like you think something because of the knowledge that I have, and some people are obviously more knowledgeable than me. I give that, but I'm very limited on my knowledge. But I think I'm right. And then I put it out there, and then somebody comes back with a really good view and goes, well, actually, based on this, this, and this, it doesn't work. I think it was like on our last YouTube video, because we asked for people, and then I think we had Zeus came in and talked about staggered development, because we were talking about staggered development last week and how we just didn't see how it was going to work. We still don't see how it's going to work, even with it. But he kind of basically said that the way they split it, it was talking about polished, it's now more polished, because the community, like Board Gamer and Mac and other people, were saying how this is going to bring more content per patch, and I was like, the math doesn't stack up. When you split your resources in half, how are you going to have more content? And then Zeus was saying, well, it's to do with it's not really content, but maybe it's the better quality of patches, because then better quality, more polish, more time to polish the patch to get them correct. Now I call slight bullshit on that, Zeus, because I think they've shown that when you give them even a year 3.0 or 2 years 3.0 was a pile of not really great. Let's be honest, every patch isn't smooth, so I don't know how much. I'll be curious to see. I give them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm going to say I told you so very quickly when we see if it's really working. I hope it does. I hope it works.
Yeah, I mean, he's like I said, I forgot to go back and watch the video, but he said that basically it's the same amount of people working on it, but they're working for longer on each patch. But to do that, you need to still need to split the team to work on both patches at once. But I still don't see how you can get a more polished patch if less people are working on it. But then I'm not a game developer, so like you said, we'll see when it comes along. It may well be what they get to do.
I love seeing the chat. I love it. You guys are awesome. Keep it up. Like I said, as long as it's civil, you just get banned if it turns nasty. There's no point. We want you all. We want all your opinions and all your views. Even if you come in and say it's a scam, that's fine too. We've got the answers for that one very quickly. That's really, in fact, that's so boring. I really just I hate it because it's such a boring one. It's like, come in and be original with something. Do a bit of homework and actually be original. I hate that one. It's like, we know that one. It's already proven that's complete garbage.
Come in and tell us Star Citizen's a llama or something. Disgust.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Exactly. Be original with it. Come in and ask the question, why is, 50 million, why is it 50 million now to make the game every year, whereas it was 50 million to make the game? That's a far more interesting question than, as a scam. That's shows to me that you're somebody that's actually knowledgeable, researched a bit, and is interested, rather than, it's a scam. Yeah, it's boring. And that's why I like all the chat here. It's good. Really good. But we're running out of time, chat, I have to say. I think that's probably it, Miz, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Let's do some more questions. I think we have to call it there, guys. We'll be back next week with more awesome stuff. But I think we have to call it. Someone's
we'll call it there. I think there's no more in the questions, and I think, it's a good, probably a good time to stop. So we will leave the question form open. So if you follow that link, you can actually add questions during the week, and we will answer them next show. Feel free to add them. We'll try and put the link onto the YouTube channel as well, so you can get to it and find it that way. The bot is always in the channel, so it should give you those links as well. But yeah, honestly, guys, if you're on YouTube, please keep giving us the comments and discussion points. It's great. It gives us something to talk about, and just talking about the news when they're not giving us much information is not that much fun. So getting to talk about what you guys want to talk about definitely helps, and just makes it much more of an interesting show. And once again, thank you to Nerd and HC Vertigo for the massive raids. Really appreciate you. And someone said the other day on Twitter about people raiding you and stuff and appreciating it, and we really do. I mean, you're sharing your community with us and all the follows that came with it. Honestly, really appreciate it. So thanks, guys. And thanks for hanging out and chatting. Honestly, it makes it makes the podcast much more fun, and we really enjoy doing it. And it also turns out our podcast, which we say every week, we're just going to do it for an hour because there's not much information, and then we end up literally being 3 hours later because we talk about all the stuff that you guys bring up. So it's great. It's
great views.
So thanks guys. If you don't catch us during
just do the
week,
podcast on here.
We don't just do the podcast.
We don't always just do the podcast on here. Like just to say, so we're trying to grow this channel. So if you have followed it, we're not just going to do the podcast on this channel. We are going to we did like today. Miz and I played on this channel with a multi thing where we we set up displays where we play together on this channel. We play games that we want to play that are multiplayer games, and we will probably be doing things. We do things like D&D on Fridays when we get that set up properly, and we do all sorts of other things, and we continue to grow this channel and want to kind of do more things here for many things besides Star Citizen. So if you like that and you want to definitely hit that follow button and hang out. We'll probably be getting more members of the Asylum stream team as well involved with the channel over the next year and stuff. We grow slowly and try and organically and take our time because we're all busy as hell because we all have full-time jobs and this is hobbies. So we try and do it as we can and when we can commit to it. So, but we appreciate all the follows like Miz said, definitely. And if you like other things, follow the channel. Go hit it up.
Okay, guys. So thanks very much. Like I said, if you don't catch us during the week, we are here every week. Well, unless it's really bad, we're here every Monday for the podcast. So, yeah. Cheers, guys, and we will catch you all later.
We're gonna rate. We've got to pass this rate on to someone.
Yeah, we need to actually.
Who should we rate? Who should we rate?
Before I say goodbye, and I've got no away soon, so.
Who's anyone got any recommendations?
Right.
Rexilla.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, no. Who do we know? Do I know anyone that's just come on?
So good.
Where's Buster the Destroyer? She's normally on No for the few either. Damn it! It's like no one I know. WTFO?
Yeah, I mean we can do, yeah.
He's the only one I know. I don't know anyone. Unless anyone's got a recommendation in chat. They recommend anyone?
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
You have a whopping 10 seconds and counting.
And that's not including the 30-second delay, so that's it.
Yep, summed up.
I never host WTFO, so we can always do it.
Either that or there's like Space Nerd and Pickle.
Some
Is he any
streamer.
good? He's small. Should we host him?
Who?
Space Nerd Pickle. I'm sure he's been about for a while. He's a small person.
Do they speak English? I mean, you got to.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't
Whatever
know.
you want to do.
I don't know.
I always try to there's so many new streamers these days, and I don't get a chance to catch up with it at this time. That many of them. Arbitrary Sketch. I do know Arbitrary Sketch. He's the only one I do know. Anyone else I don't really know.
What do you want to do, Arbitrary Sketch? Anyway. No? Okay.
Choose your person. Choose your one. Choose the one you want to choose.
Pick a non-SC streamer and we'll just educate you.
Chat's not helping. They're only here to talk about other things. I don't even know if does this guy speak English.
Who? Space Nerd.
Doesn't even have a webcam. It's got to have a webcam. Yes, Pickle. Do Pickle. He's fine. Yeah, no, I know who you're on about. Yeah. Pickle's fine.
I'm doing it. Okay. We're rating him. I think he's got quite a few thousand followers actually, so he's not too bad. But there we go. Wrong answers only. Okay, guys, thanks very much for the follows and everything. Go over and raid him. Go and tell him the Asylum has sent you. And as always, we love you and thank you very much for supporting us as always. Take care, and we'll see you next week or in the week. Goodbye. There you go.